Ready,
Set.
Gamecast.
Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to Ready Set Gamecast, a podcast about the best games of 2017. I'm Bryce, and I'm joined by the best to look at of 2017, Darian.
Hello.
The best Destiny 2 apologist of 2017, Teddy Chinaris.
That's not true. The Everest and the Endgame are a huge problem.
The best Teddy Chinaris of 2017, SuperKILRbuny.
What's up, guys? Yeah, Teddy Chairs, welcome to the stream. How's it going?
I love you, Teddy.
Guys, I don't know, but Star Wars is a great movie.
That's true.
And so is Justice League. Justice League best movie 2017.
What's
And
okay.
and the best pickle enthusiast of 2017, MattAPlays.
No one wants a pickle in their mouth more than I do.
Yes. All right. Feeling good about that.
Starting off strong.
Okay,
Who else was nominated for that award, Matt?
it was
What, the pickle enthusiast?
yeah.
Just Google pickle in mouth. Save search off. You'll see a whole list of nominees.
List of nominees. Oh my god.
So this is a special Game of the Year edition of Ready Set Gamecast. There'll be no news, no anything else.
Fuck the news.
We are
No
just
one cares.
here
It's old news now.
here to pick the best games of 2017, including the categories of Best Sound Design, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, and Most Innovative, along with
And also Game of the Year.
Game of the Year.
Gamiest game of the year.
It's some weird categories, but we didn't want to branch out into like a billion categories, so we handpicked.
We just
Like
didn't want
5.
Darian to be able to vote in any, so
Yes.
we didn't put MOBA. We didn't put Best Chinese
Best
Game.
MOBA of 2017. I don't know. Dota?
PUBG.
Best
Not
Esport
Hearthstone.
Game.
Heroes of the Storm. And League
Best
Legends.
League update.
And that's about it. Those are the 3 nominees.
Okay, Darian, we're gonna let you pick what is the best Chinese game of 2017. It's all you.
Black Desert Online.
Okay.
It's Korean.
Damn it!
I think it's Korean.
I tried.
Okay, Darren, why don't you tell us what your pick for the best sound design of 2017 is?
Cuphead. Sorry, I got really distracted. I started looking up Chinese games.
And
You can pick one of them.
Good, yeah.
why do you feel like Cuphead deserves that award?
I'm pretty sure all of the sounds were like individually recorded. Like everything was recorded and used in the game. None of it was like created by a computer. So that's pretty cool. They made all the sounds for the game.
Lots of Foley design in that game.
Yeah, and
It's hard to do.
It had an old timey feel to it.
It's really jazzy.
Yeah. I hear there's also a mode that will even add more of a like distortion to the sound effects to give it kind of a more like it was recorded way back when.
I think there is. That sounds very familiar.
Teddy Chinaris, what do you think deserves best sound design?
I think Destiny 2 easily could take sound design. Soundtrack, maybe, but not as like easy. Like if there's anything that Destiny as a franchise has excelled at, it's the sound design and the visuals. Like the exotic weapons are always so good when it comes to the design. Like the sunshot
Even if
is a
they're
really good
useless in
example.
game.
Yeah, the the sunshot is a really good example of an exotic weapon that sounds awesome and super unique. What's the new version of Cold Heart that's solar? What's that one called again? Prometheus
Reinhardt.
Lens. That's what it's called. Reinhardt.
Oh.
Yup. Yeah, Prometheus Lens has a fucking so good sound, and if you watch some of the like behind the scenes on like how they make it, it's really crazy and weird, like how they do some of the sounds for the guns. Like, it's the sound design in that game is really, really good, especially with also like the abilities like the supers and what those sound like when those activate and all that. It's very unique. They put a lot of work into it.
I tend to agree with you on Destiny, and just
Yeah.
if it's gonna be nominated for anything, sound design is probably where it's at for that.
At this point in its life, sadly.
Best bad microtransaction implementation.
Ooh, that one might have to go to Star Wars
That's
Battlefront
going
2.
it's nominated though. Destiny 2 would be nominated.
Yeah, it's nominated. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, Battlefront doesn't have microtransactions anymore, so.
Oh my god. Still
for now.
loot box based progression until they re-implement it. Yeah.
Bunny, what is your pick for best sound design?
Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. Every single sound in that game is important except for the plane. In the beginning, the plane. In game, every sound is important. There is, and the way that it's all laid out, the way that every gun sounds distinct from another, is very important. And especially with like the vaulting that's been implemented now, you can use the sound in the game to your advantage. It's so uniquely in PUBG than in any other game I've ever played. Like I've played matches where instead of picking up a second like real gun, I'll just pick up the crossbow and scare the shit out of people, shooting windows out, or making them think I'm somewhere else. It's the audio design is so well done, especially for stereo. You can tell if somebody is in the building with you, if they're crouch walking, if they're normal walking, if they're sprinting. You can tell if they're 2 buildings away from you. It's really, really important to the game, and I think probably for my money the best sound design of 2017.
Yeah, that is a game that you really need to play with headphones on, so you can kind of like, you can't have music
Exactly.
on, anything. You gotta be focused
Exactly.
on listening to what's going on around you. I know there was one time that I was in a house and I was checking stuff out, and then I could hear someone walking in the house, so I kind of just like hid in a closet and just was listening. Like, is he getting closer? Where is he going? Just by listening.
Yep.
And then like
You hear the doors open or windows breaking, and it's very, very well placed audio wise. It's incredible what they've done with the sound design in that game.
Yeah. MattAPlays. What is your choice for
right.
best sound design?
For games I've actually played, I have to go with Zelda. I think many different elements in the game kind of contribute to building the world, but I think sound is super important to Zelda. Whether it's cooking, whether it's a quest line, like there's a specific quest line that I don't want to really say too much about, but it's like as you progress in it, and it's a sort of long one, the music is kind of the result as you go, and it builds on itself. There's specific characters that have, like a unique theme to them and are in the world. Well, one specific character that I'm talking about that's in the world, and so as you approach them or you approach a new area, it's like, oh, I know who that is or what it is, or the first time you run into them, you're like, what's going on? And you can kind of locate based on that. And then certain environments like Hyrule Castle, when you are at the castle, when you're inside the castle and when you're outside the castle, like the music transitions seamlessly, but when you're outside, it's like a big orchestral anthem kind of thing going on, and then when you're inside, it's much more muted, and it's just like an organ playing, and so it's kind of it does a lot of neat things with sound, and sound has always kind of been important in Zelda games since Ocarina, I think, and 3D Zelda games at least, when you were playing music to get around. And then Wind Waker, you played the notes, and so, I don't know, they've always kind of done that well, and I think Zelda, again, nailed sound design.
This is the one pick that's really interesting to me, because as somebody who played probably like 25 hours of it on the Wii U, I should check at some point, but then I'd have to turn on my Wii U. It's like, I don't, the sound design is something specifically, if there's like a lot of, if you separated, a game into a bunch of different categories, like gameplay, story, sound design as one of them would be one of the weakest, because most of it's silent as far as like my experience, but that's not the story stuff. I'm sure the music and all that and like the sound design really kicks in when you go into like story stuff, but like just going around the world is barely anything.
There is very little like music in that sense, right?
Yeah.
You're in the world, and it's like if you go outside and you stand there and you're like, oh, it's quiet out, but then you listen, right? And then you start hearing things and you're like, oh, that's what the wind sounds like. Oh, that's what, crickets sound like, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtle things. That's true.
That subtle world building through the sound.
Ambient sounds.
Sounds, yes.
And the cooking jingle, as you mentioned, is...
The cooking jingle's awesome. One of my favorite things is when you are riding your horse, and it's sort of like the broken piano sound that they used in the commercials, and it's kind of like...
that's
But
really
as
good.
you ride your horse more and more, like the traditional Zelda theme comes in, and it's like a really cool feeling when you're just like riding across Hyrule Field as the sun's setting and that's going.
It's awesome.
My choice for best sound design is Hellblade. Now, this is a game I've just recently been playing over the last couple weeks, but they put a lot of focus on their sound. They basically tell you, play the game with headphones on, and that is because they use binaural audio, which, if you don't know, that's audio that kind of plays differently between your ears, to simulate like people talking around you. Like, it almost feels like, I mean, she hears voices, and it sounds like you've got voices kind of coming from all around you, and they're like supporting your decisions, questioning your decisions, and there's even one
If you want to be freaked out.
Yeah, there's one point later on where a new voice comes in, and the way they did the audio for it, it almost feels like it's coming from the back of your head. Like, it's this menacing, overpowering voice that just kind of feels like it's like drilling in the back of your head, and it's just super discomforting. And it's part of the DNA of Hellblade. Like, in the combat sections, there are enemies will pop up behind you, and the voices will tell you behind you, so dodge, because there is a swing coming from behind you. There's even one section where what is the main character's name?
Senua.
Senua.
Yeah, Senua.
Yeah.
It is in Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's pretty much blind. She can just barely see in front of her. There's like a very wispy outline of some stuff. So you basically have to go based on your sound to figure out where to go. Like you have a voice guiding you of like, what do you hear? And she says water, and he says follow the water. So you kind of have to listen and go, okay, the water is getting louder over here. You're kind of listening for sounds to tell, oh, what do I do? I feel like in that section, I obviously didn't do this, but I feel like you could close your eyes and probably go through that section, because you're just going off the sound. So I feel like the focus of that game is been sound, and they nailed it.
Let's keep a score of how many games that have been mentioned that I own and have not either played or beaten. I have not beaten Zelda. I have not played Hellblade, and I own both of those. I have not beaten Cuphead. I also own that.
You have played
in PUBG. I have played PUBG, and I have beaten.
I've beaten
Destiny 2.
PUBG.
And Tenny,
Yeah, totally.
Teddy has not played
I
Destiny
got
2.
that chicken dinner. You know, that's all it takes. That's it. We're
Teddy
done.
has not played or beaten Destiny 2, but he owns it.
It's all alive,
He's
man.
nominated. Okay, now we have to decide who wins best sound design.
See, this is where it's gonna get fucking weird because we all have different ones.
Well, obviously that's the point.
Like,
Anybody willing to give up their stake right now?
I'm willing to give it to Hellblade
Anyone-
because, as I wrote in the doc, I've heard good things, and I think
I've
that's
heard a lot of
hilarious.
good things as well, but
no
I'm
one
not
else
gonna give it to it because I haven't played. I've played the others. I've played all of the others actually, but I haven't.
Hellblade is
other than
incredible. I
I can't wait to
absolutely
play it, man.
would vote for Hellblade, but I don't know if I'd vote for Hellblade over PUBG. Specifically for sound design. Both are two of the best examples of sound design I think I've ever seen in a game, but I don't think I would. I think I would still say that for the game, PUBG's sound is more important to it than Hellblade's.
I was
They're
gonna
both critical.
say
They're both critical.
I was
but-
gonna say that they're both critical, and like you can have a BR be successful right without it. If you look at Fortnite, like their sound design's good, but it's not on that level, right? Each gun doesn't necessarily sound different. You can tell if someone's around you. So what you're saying, like the execution is significantly better in PUBG for the sound.
Yeah, the execution, and it's more critical to that, to the gameplay, to being the best you can be at the game in PUBG than it is in something like Fortnite, or even with the original Arma Battle Royale mod.
I will say though, recently they added the sneaky silencer mode in Fortnite, which you realize how loud the guns are when you play sneaky silencer, and you're like, I don't know where I'm getting shot from. But let's see. Here's where we start getting into fights, Bunny.
The question's interesting because it's like,
'cause-
which game is it more critical in? You know?
I don't know if it's as important or not important. It is very important in PUBG, but I don't know if it's as like, I don't know if you're saying this, but like innovative, like another game has never done this before. Like,
No, this isn't innovation. This is not the innovation award.
it's true.
I think you do lose the game though for Hellblade. I haven't played it personally, but if you had Hellblade
lose
without sound, like do you lose the
play
game?
PUBG
where-
without sound, you're gonna be gone.
I think you could still get lucky.
I've
could
played
still get lucky.
PUBG
You can
without
get
sound
extremely
before.
lucky.
Yeah, it's still
And, like,
possible.
you-
but
I mean,
not,
you could
like,
play through
probable.
the game. You would miss out on the point.
Yeah.
of the game. You know, for Hellblade, it's they're both. I think for experiencing the game in at their best, or experiencing the game in the best way possible, it's critical for both. So I don't care either way which way it goes, honestly.
I also still want to
my
throw
vote,
out.
my vote is still going to go for PUBG. I even wrote Hellblade first, and I was like, nah, I think I have to go for PUBG.
Does anybody support Destiny 2 for best sound?
I want to throw
No.
out that I literally run Sentinel because I love the sound that it makes when you shoulder charge as a Sentinel. Like, it's so good, man. There's so many good sounds in that game that are just satisfying.
But Teddy's the only one
I
who
don't think
supports
it's the
that.
best sound design.
So Destiny 2 is out. Zelda's out. Darian,
Should we rank them as in like one, as in
Nah,
best, second?
just-
No, that's too much.
I kind of want to.
That's too
That'd be
much.
fun.
If we
Do
can
it on your
agree
own
at all,
time.
I mean that's pretty good.
Darian, what are you thinking? You want to keep in the rankings or fight
I
for your?
mean, Cuphead is like made really well, but as far as like the importance to the game and stuff like that, I would definitely withdraw my vote. Like, it's got lots of cool sounds, but like it's not like I can play the game. Like, it's not like I have to play the game with headphones to
Yeah.
get full
Yeah,
effect. Like, I
for
could
sure,
definitely. The only reason I bought the game is for the artwork. So like the sound design is like
The
a
art
bonus.
and the sound are so
Sound is art.
complementary, though. That's
Combined
the
is
thing.
really cool.
Yeah, they're
but,
so
like, you can-
complementary. Like they're exactly
Right.
They mesh with that game
It's
so
almost
well.
like we're talking about an audio-visual medium.
Nah.
I don't know. I mean, Hellblade sounds like a game that I need to buy now. So like, I'd probably
Hellblade
go with that
also
one.
is only like 6 to 8 hours, so
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I bought it, because I was like, ooh, I can actually
I'll
beat
get
this
through
maybe.
a game, except for Teddy. Forgot
Hey
that
man,
you can't
if I
finish
start
anything.
it, maybe I'll get through it. It's only like 8
Doubt
hours, maybe. I still haven't beaten the Call of Duty World War II campaign. That's supposed to be like 6 hours.
That's really good.
I think. I mean,
I'm okay with Hellblade. It sounds like that's kind of where everybody's leaning.
Only 2 people here have played it,
Everybody
right?
else is leaning. I've played it, haven't finished it.
I've been playing it, and then
I just feel so weird giving an award to a game I haven't played, but just from what I've heard,
well, you can abstain. If you abstain,
All right.
then it's probably going to Hellblade.
Yeah, it would anyways. Yeah.
I mean, I think sound can be critical in PUBG, but I feel like Hellblade has more interesting use of sound, like the way they play with it. So sound design goes to Hellblade.
From what I've heard, I hear it's incredible.
Can I give a shout out to
No.
Shout out. Give me that.
Sonic Mania and Persona 5 for having some rockin' music.
The Persona 5
has
music.
amazing music.
Oh, the
Sonic Mania,
soundtrack.
I have only played muted on my Switch.
That's the thing, though. Sound design and soundtrack are very different. If we were talking directly about soundtrack, I would push for Persona 5 all day because, man, it's got some awesome songs.
Wait, so if we're throwing back to other stuff, I would totally, I played the Crash Bandicoot remake, and, being super nostalgic about it, the updated sounds are gorgeous. It is a beautiful game.
Crash
sounds
looks so
really
good in
cool
the
in it.
remastered version.
Yeah, it really does.
Okay, so best narrative. Teddy Chinaris, tell me what your best narrative is.
You start with me. I am the one who has not finished anything this year. So I put up Horizon because as all of the games that I have played this year, still haven't beaten Horizon. Horizon has still had the best story out of all the ones that I've played. The story is super, super interesting.
Including the moon ending.
Man, see, I wish I knew what that was about. You know?
Well, we don't have to worry about Teddy spoiling any games of the year.
Yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn would be what I put, but literally on the document I put Horizon Zero Dawn, I guess, because I didn't finish anything about. I could talk about a lot of the other stuff because I played a lot of them, but I didn't. Narrative is very important to finish the story and find out where it concludes and whatnot, and I just didn't do that with many things. But out of the stuff that I played, Horizon's story was really, really interesting. I liked a lot of the characters that I was seeing, and the main quests were always super fascinating. Finding out more about the world and what happened before that and all that.
SuperKILRbuny,
what is your pick?
Hands down, Horizon Zero Dawn. There's not
I did a good thing.
There's not a game this year other than that I felt has an incredibly personal story, so expertly woven into this overarching world story that didn't feel unrealistic or forced in any way after seeing after suspending your disbelief in robot dinosaurs and shit like that.
Yeah.
Zero Dawn has this Aloy story where she's trying to figure out the mystery of her birth and stuff, while also kind of discovering how she fits into the world outside of this tribe. And within this tribe, how does she fit in, that kind of stuff. It is so well done, and the emotional impact at the end of the game is just fantastic. It is the only game this year that made me cry.
I'll get there one day.
Yeah, you will see in 5 years, Teddy.
I really wanted to beat it by the end of Christmas break. You know how much Horizon I played on Christmas break?
0.
Probably 4 hours. I sat down one day and played a bunch, and then I was like, well, I got all these multiplayer games to play.
Yeah, I understand.
It's a problem.
MattAPlays. What is your pick?
So I'm kind of like Teddy, where I tend not to necessarily need or value story in games as much as, I don't know, I see it as 2 camps generally. There's people that are I like story in my games and want a story-based game, and other people that are I don't necessarily need that. I can play Overwatch or something like that endlessly and be fine with it, and it'll be a great experience for me.
I really like both, which is a problem.
Yeah, I tend to be more in the camp of, I just want a game and doesn't need a story, but if it has a story, that's fine. So the most story-heavy game I played, which is now the best narrative because it was basically the only thing I played that had a story other than Golf Story, was Final Fantasy 15. So,
Didn't come out this year.
Didn't come out last year or 2017.
So we're going to nominate Golf Story.
So I guess we could go
Dude,
with Golf Story.
I will say, I've played like 6 hours of Golf Story, and it's really good. I want to keep playing.
I ended up playing 20 hours of it before getting through it.
It's really good. It's a lot funnier than people give it credit for. It's really funny. It's very cute.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
And it's got a great golf game in it.
Game I played, Golf Story.
Great system.
For a game I experienced, I watched a full playthrough of Edith Finch, What Remains of Edith Finch, and that game was really cool, and I watched it instead of playing it, so I don't know if that really defeats the purpose, or I got the story, but, it was more of a movie
Finch
for me.
Walking sim?
Yeah,
It is a walking sim, but it's the best
probably
walking
fine.
sim I've seen.
Yeah. I played Everybody's Gone to the Rapture this year.
Not a great game.
And it soured me on walking sims, and I was like, no, I'm not doing Edith Finch. I can't do it. But
that's
I
like
should.
saying I played
know,
Resistance Burning Skies, and that soured me on first-person shooters.
I know.
Yeah, Edith Finch has a lot of puzzle type things or other game elements that it pulls in while you go, so it's really neat.
So is your pick Golf Story or What Remains of Edith Finch?
Well, if it's something I played, it's Golf Story, I guess. But if
I'll go
if
with
it can be
something
anything,
you experienced. I'll go
Edith
for
I
this
think
kid
you
then.
can.
I'm gonna go with Edith
Yeah.
Finch.
Because you
Okay.
saw the story.
Darian, what's your pick?
I have to go with What Remains of Edith Finch because that's the only one from this year that I played this year.
Stories Untold.
I did play Stories Untold. That one I wouldn't call a narrative so much. That one, I don't know. That one at the end kind of
It's more
turned
an
into a narrative.
experimental game.
But yeah, the What Remains of Edith Finch the whole time was she was telling a story the entire time, and it was told in such a weird way that I wasn't anticipating at all, and it was so cool to experience, and just all the whole game was just an adventure because the way you were experiencing the game was changing as you were playing the game, and it was just so cool. And then at the end, when
No
it's
spoilers.
just no spoilers, yeah, no, but the way it ties up in the end is just so cool. It was such a good game. I'm not great with words, but
It is a fairly unique experience, and I guess walking sims kind of try to get at that anyway, and that's kind of how they came onto the scene. And it's really just an expertly made version of that, and you don't really know what you're getting into when you start it, and it evolves, like you said, as you go.
Yeah. My pick is What Remains of Edith Finch. I liked it so much I bought a copy for Darian to play.
yeah.
There you go.
Which
He's
she
hey, this is really good. Play this.
which she
and then I
played
played
while
it.
I wasn't around.
I tried to.
No.
Anyway,
Hey,
I
VODs
played it
exist, man.
nonstop.
So, yeah. You start off, if you're going in blind, which like story games, you really should. You go in thinking, okay, this is a typical walking simulator. And then you go into the first family member's story, and suddenly you're doing something very different. And then each time, you exit their story, you're going to another person's room. And what's cool about it is that, each family member's story is this very surreal experience about how they died. Some of them are very colorful and amazing, and they all play very differently. But what's cool is that you look through their room before you play that section, so you kind of get an impression of who they are before you even experience their death. I remember.
Oh, wait, they're all dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does this also
It's
take
like-
place on the moon?
No. What?
No.
But I remember like
I'm not playing this game. Spoilers, and it's not on the moon.
Man, Horizon's on the moon though. Spoilers, guys. So yeah, exactly. So
spoilers.
who's the real winner
That's pretty
here?
upsetting. I didn't know that. Oh man.
Okay, I remember looking through Edith Finch's father's room, just like looking at everything, the photos on the wall and just everything. And then finally, once I've kind of like made my impression of who he is, that's when I played through his story. Because there's a little symbol, looking at this is going to give you his death. And it's always presented in different ways. There's a really cool section, which is probably the best section, where you're playing and you're chopping fish. You work as a guy in a factory who chops fish, but on the side, like with one part of your controller, you're chopping fish, and with the other part of your controller, you're playing a mini narrative thing where you're making choices and sailing down the ocean and stuff, which has the most beautiful design to it, and then slowly that part of the game takes over, and it's so cool. So the way that they present the story is so interesting, and then by the end, you're just like, whoa, I just went on a roller coaster of emotions, because you go in knowing that everyone is dead, but you get to know each member of the family through looking at their rooms, playing through their death, and it's just so powerful. I feel like Edith Finch is one of the stories that has stuck with me more than any other game. So, yeah, I think Edith Finch deserves the award. Anybody? I mean, it's already won. Like 3 people have voted.
I want to give a shout out to Batman: The Telltale series.
Get out.
I did play that this year, and it was really good. I
that
haven't
was
done
fantastic.
season 2 yet, but the first season was really good.
Was really good.
I have not played a Telltale game in a long time, and I kind of wish I have. Batman seems like a good one.
Minecraft story.
I didn't finish season 2 of The Walking Dead. I played like 2 or 3 episodes and
same here.
fell off. And that was the last
man.
one.
So Tales from the Borderlands, fantastic, and Batman Telltale is fantastic. Season 1, both fantastic games. If you're looking for the best Telltale games, those are the
Life
two
is
best, I think.
Strange. Oh, I thought.
I want to give a shout out to a couple of games that I finished this year that didn't come out this year. Undertale. I finished Undertale this year, and that didn't come out this year, but goddamn, I totally see what everyone's talking about with Undertale. It's amazing. A little late to the party, but and then
Still haven't played it.
I finished
Me neither.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered for the first time. The first time
So
I'd
you
ever
finished a
played
game from
COD
10
4.
years ago.
Yup.
I'm actually
Real
a
good.
big fan
Real
of
good, pretty
the
good of it.
backlog. Like, man, if this game had come out this year, I finished
Backlog
it, so
rewards.
it's awesome. Yeah,
But
backlog.
one game that actually did come out this year that I don't think gets enough credit. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy was really good. I liked how it ended.
Still
with
haven't
the,
even
with the story.
booted it up.
Damn. I really liked how it ended. Like, and there's one really good twist in it that's awesome. Like, the story is really good. They nailed it. It was a good little mini Uncharted adventure. So I would definitely give.
I was
a
just
shout-out to
so
that.
satisfied with how Uncharted 4 finished. I've looked at it several times. It's installed, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to play more Uncharted right now. Like, Uncharted 4 was so perfect.
The ending of Uncharted 4 is the best video game ending that I've ever seen, and maybe the best fictional like story ending of anything. Like it's such a perfect ending. It's such a
you have
perfect
to play
ending,
all
man.
50 hours of Uncharted though for it to matter.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah, I mean, 50 hours is not really accurate either. You could probably
that's
get through
not
the
accurate.
whole
Aren't they
thing
all
in
like 12?
Well, depending on what difficulty level you play them on and how bad at video games you are.
I'm a
Okay.
filthy casual.
Like, for
so
me, it takes
everything's
me
always
200
on
hours.
easy.
Yeah. But yeah, like I platinumed all 3. I platinumed Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 on the remastered collection in like
I want to do
24
3.
hours total.
Oh, okay.
So they're not that long. if you're enjoying it, it's probably like 10 hours.
When
10,
Uncharted
12,
4 came
maybe.
out, I saw so many YouTubers who had never played the previous series and were like doing playthroughs of 4, and they still really, really like. I loved watching them see certain parts and like the ending, and they still were really impacted by it, but like not as much as somebody who had played all of them. But yeah, just shout out to Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I will say, Bunny, I totally get that, but it's not Nathan Drake, so that it's very much a side thing. It's good.
Do the Horizon crowd want to fight the Edith Finch crowd? Are you guys?
It's 2v3, but it's very
Teddy
good.
hasn't actually played it.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't beaten
Horizon
it.
Zero Dawn is from
Disqualified.
start to finish.
Damn, still playing it.
Just such a solid narrative. It's and it does it in an open world game. It has the perfect balance of story and game, and the gameplay informs the narrative as well. Like much like the only other game that I can think that really did that, where every element informed every other element. Which was The Last of Us. Horizon Zero Dawn does that. Every element of that game informs every other element. The story informs the gameplay. Gameplay informs the story. It all works together to create a very, very good and I think kind of a seminal point that we'll look back at going, here's these incredible games that really informed where video games really grew into their own. Much like we look back at Citizen Kane and go, this is where movies were looked at as, okay, this is what this art form is going to be. So
I will say we should probably shout out some of the games that a bunch of people would normally include, but we didn't play, like Nier Automata, Wolfenstein 2.
I played like 3 hours of that.
What else?
Wolfenstein 2 I played like 4 hours ago. It's
Some people would
fantastic.
also
I'm in
do
the
Hellblade
Teddy
for the
camp with
narrative.
Wolfenstein. Here it is, shrink wrapped.
Yeah, it's on my PS4. I just don't. Oh, that's another. Okay, let's keep the score. I had 3 on the last one. Now I'm adding 2 more. I own Nier Automata. I bought that on Christmas. I
Nier
own
Automata.
Wolfenstein 2. I haven't played through. I don't own What Remains of Edith Finch though, so that's I don't. It's not really good or bad.
It's
but,
pretty short. You could buy it and play it tonight.
I think Horizon Zero Dawn wins, obviously.
I think we've all come to a consensus.
Everybody's come
that
around.
Undertale wins.
We can't nominate a game that nobody's ever heard of, Teddy.
What?
Thinking.
Undertale does have that one really good song. Again, if you want to go back to
Undertale
sound.
has so many good songs. I have like
Yeah,
5 of their songs.
wait,
on my
I'd like to
Spotify.
change my answer for the sound design
DuckTales.
to Undertale.
Goodness. All right, we're it's What Remains
He's
of
already
Edith
put
Finch.
it in the file, and Edith
It's Edith
Finch.
Finch.
Yes, Edith Finch won Best Narrative.
Congratulations, I guess.
Best Art Direction. SuperKILRbuny, what is your pick for that category?
Cuphead. I mean, as beautiful as Persona 5 is, and I thought about Persona 5 a whole lot. As fantastic as that art is, I think Cuphead has a better execution of their art style, and it is far more unique and interesting, and hard to create hand-drawn animations the way that they did, along with everything else. Every bit of it, the map, the characters, every little piece of that game, the attacks, animations, all that kind of stuff feels like it's straight out of some 1930s cartoon. It's really, really, really cool. And if it for me, it's like the best art of any game for the last 5-10 years.
MattAPlays, what is your thoughts?
I'm one of the only people that did say Cuphead. So, I did put it as game I didn't play in my little notes here on my phone. It's a game I didn't play that I had in as, if I was going to pick a game. But since I didn't play it, I picked Zelda because I did play that. And I loved the world of Zelda and the en plein air style that they went after, which is a painting style where you go out into the world and you paint what you see. And that's what they made, they basically made a painting of a world was the idea, right? So
I'm very glad you
all the
explained
texture work and all that is very impressionist environment impressionist
so you're saying
painting
it's not
stuff.
very creative.
I think he's
I
saying
don't
it's
know that it
exactly
has to be.
creative.
It's incredibly artistic,
They
not
did that for
necessarily
in a
creative,
game.
because you're painting what you see.
I think Matt's just saying he went to school for art history and just really wants to let everyone know.
True. But I gotta say, Cuphead, yeah. I mean, if Cuphead's gonna win, or, it should win, right? Like,
If Zelda's not going to win,
if Zelda's not gonna win, Cuphead
If
should win.
Because
Persona
Zelda's not gonna
5
win
is
anything.
not gonna win,
And shout
then
out to
Cuphead
Persona
should
for
win.
making
Get
a
outta
cool
here.
Persona
3D
5
anime.
was mine.
Yeah, Teddy China's one is your choice.
Yeah, Persona 5. I think it does exactly what Bunny was saying with Cuphead, where like every single aspect of that game is like one united art style. It's incredible. Like when it comes to style, like that game is the most stylish game I've ever seen. Like it's the menus, the UI, like everything flows together and it's awesome. But Cuphead would be my
pulled it off on every level in Cuphead.
That is one of the more
is-
amazing things
is
too. Yeah.
What I think is more incredible about that, the fact that they actually did it.
So I don't have any regret.
The moment you first saw Cuphead teased, and it was just like, oh, that looks neat. I've never seen a game look like a 30s cartoon.
It was in a sizzle trailer, and everyone was like, whoa, go back. What was that one? What was that one right there? And all these other games. And then
Mm-hmm.
Darren, why don't you tell me what you like about Cuphead? No matter what people's pick is, I'm gonna be just like, tell me about Cuphead.
It's the whole rest of the show. This is a Cuphead podcast. I mean, I think Bunny nailed it on the head. Like, I don't really have any more to add. He's got it.
My pick is also Cuphead. I have not played Cuphead, but I've seen Cuphead, so I know the art. That, like, I don't need to play it to know what the art looks like. And from my, like, understanding, the art is critical. You need to be looking at the world and everything to know what to do in terms of gameplay, and they nailed.
I mean, you need to be looking at whatever game you're playing to.
Hey, Hellblade, you could play blind. I told you. Sound.
Audio visual medium.
That's why it won Best Sound Design.
I was waiting for Bunny to bring it back around.
But yeah, just the style, the art direction is so cool. So, our best art direction goes to Zelda Breath of the Wild. Marking it down.
Get out of here.
Matt's like, yeah.
7 out of 10.
Persona 5 is really good, and you should all play it, and it's very beautiful.
So Cuphead.
Played like
Okay,
40
how long
hours
is
of Persona 5. I played like 40 hours of it, and I finished 2 of the like
I
9
played like 15
castles
hours,
or
and
something.
It's one of my favorite games of the.
It's long. It's a time investment, but it's great.
I've seen like 2 or 3 clips of Persona 5, and the artwork just reminds me of a PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 game called Catherine. The
It's
art
the same
direction,
team.
or the art is,
Yep.
yeah. Well, the art, so it doesn't like, I don't know, that just the fact that they look.
The menus are very cool.
Real talk, the
Are they
menus are
identical?
like what's very important. Like the character models are really good and the environments are really cool, but like it's that woven with the UI and the menus. Like every single, like you enter a room and it's like does like swipes and
Yeah,
it's like
all
all
the-
with the music and it complements each other really well.
It's very anime.
What are the chances of
Very
a
anime.
Switch
It's
port?
true.
Anime.
I wish, dude. I wish. Because one of the reasons why I loved Persona 4 Golden so much was because it was on my Vita and I could slowly chip away at it. And I
See,
wish
that's
I wish
if it came to
5 was on the Switch. That would be great.
Then
That would
I
be
would
great.
consider it like every
That would
game.
be really good.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw like the PS3 version of Persona 5 ported to the
Yeah,
Switch.
because they could do it on Switch because everyone forgets. I forget all the time. Like Bunny just said, Persona 5 is on PS3 as well. They
Wow.
put that on PS3 as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So
can
I
do
wouldn't be surprised if we see like Persona 5 Golden or whatever, or like maybe updated or like add a character or something like they did for Persona 4.
I could restart. I'm not
Golden,
that
and for
far
Persona
in.
3 portable and FES. So yeah, that would be fantastic. I'd
Yeah,
buy it
that-
again even if I didn't play it. Persona 5's amazing, but best art direction gotta go to Cuphead. If Cuphead didn't come out this year, Persona 5
Almost
absolutely.
didn't, I feel like.
It almost didn't. Yeah, I mean it got delayed a whole bunch. So
All right,
yeah,
best art
it's-
direction to Cuphead. Next category.
That brings us to the most innovative game of 2017. Let's start off with SuperKILRbuny. What's your pick for most innovative?
So mine's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Not because of just its audio or anything that we've already talked about, but because of its the subject matter that it tackles. It tackles a mostly taboo topic in a very interesting and mature way. It doesn't shy away from that side of what it's dealing with, and basically it's a game about mental health, right? So it's not it's definitely not something to deal with, in a light or comical way at all. But it is a great game, and I think innovative in the way that it chooses to tackle a really unspoken, tabooed subject. So
Yeah, I mean, Senua, it's not all in gameplay. Like, she is mentally ill. She knows it. I think her mother was mentally ill as well, and that illness is part of the gameplay. Like, her hearing voices is an aspect that you were very experienced with, and her doubting herself and her just trying to deal with her illness is a main focus of like I mean, I haven't finished it yet. I think I'm pretty close. But the entire time knowing that she's mentally ill, you have to ask yourself, is any of this real? Is it all in her head? And even if it isn't, how her dealing with her mental illness shines through in the gameplay of how the enemies are aspects of her illness. She says, like, when she fights a boss battle, like, I have fought you before in the wilderness, and she's talking about her mental illness because she left to try and deal with that. And so it is a game through and through about mental illness, and it's not story, like, it's not this is about mental illness. Like, you can completely play it not going, oh, mental illness, but it's like, I don't know, it's hidden and present at the same time.
Speaking of games about mental illness, my pick for most innovative would be Doki Doki Literature Club. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't even love that game all that much. But I didn't have a pick for most innovative. But I will say, I totally want to represent people who love that game, because, man, that game is super, super special. There's a lot going on with that. They treat the subject matter that's kind of similar, very respectfully and very correctly. Like, it's not treated lightly, and it gets really crazy. There's a lot of twists. There's a lot going on in that game that you wouldn't think would be going on. after you should play that game. It is free on Steam. It's called Doki Doki Literature Club. It looks like a little visual novel, which it is for a lot of it, but it is worth going through. And then once you finish that, watch the 2 game theory episodes on it, because those are really good. I've only seen the one, actually, but the one that I saw was like, holy crap, I need to watch the other one. So,
Should I be scared of Doki Doki Literature Club?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like, that's
How much
my
is it
general
like
impression.
a visual novel? Like how much do your
It's
change
very
it?
much a visual novel.
It
Like,
is
do
a
you
visual
decide
novel.
Yeah.
anything?
And it's free, isn't it?
Yeah, it's free. It's very much a visual novel, which this is why I say I don't necessarily love it that much, because I like what it does, but I'm not one of the people that is super obsessed with it and loves it, because I think that it's a lot to get to the good part or the great part that's like really awesome and really cool twists, but there's a lot of like regular visual novel to get to that point. But I was also streaming, and when you are streaming and reading everything aloud that is in a visual novel, it takes a lot more time than if you were just reading it by yourself.
Were you doing funny voices for the characters?
I did a little bit, but I couldn't do it the whole time.
You gave
That
up
was
on
a little
it.
much.
Yeah.
I couldn't just
Classic,
be like,
just,
hey,
yeah,
this is
anytime.
me. The whole time.
That's your normal voice, Teddy. I don't like. That's not.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Matt, what's your pick for most innovative game of 2017?
Well, before I say that, I just want to say about Hellblade, which is it's cool to see a serious game, or like the idea of serious games have been around a little while, or like games for change or for a cause, and so it's interesting and neat to see something like Hellblade come along where it is, you know, a serious game that hit the big time and it's got a significant message or you know, something behind it other than just, you know, this is a game for entertainment purposes. So I just wanted to say that really quickly. I was trying to think of what I played that was relatively innovative this year, and I settled on Snipper Clips. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, you know, this is fairly innovative and fairly unique. I haven't really seen anything like it. It was kind of the initial like killer app for the Switch, I guess, other than Zelda. It was like, what are you gonna get? You should get Snipper
It's like
Clips
the
because you
killer
can.
app for the Joy-Cons for sure.
Yeah, it's the killer app for the Joy-Cons, exactly. Like they thought 1-2 Switch was gonna be that, but it was really like Snipper Clips.
Then
Here
they
you go. I
charged
break a controller
$900
off.
for it.
Yeah. I break a controller off, you start playing, and we get it immediately. We have this co-op puzzle experience, and the actual gameplay is pretty unique because you're trimming your friend down, or, you know, rotating your character so they can, you know, platform off of you and do all sorts of puzzles that way.
Yeah. And the puzzles are pretty unique. Like there's ones where you're trying to get a ball in a hole. There's ones that, like, based on how you're clipped and you rotate, like you're moving things down a hill. I don't really know how to describe that, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You know, the little section where you not really
I love
moving,
moving things down hills.
It's a unique little like puzzle or like physics puzzles that require a little bit more cooperation and thoughtfulness in how you snip your friends up.
Yeah. Easy to
cut your
understand,
friends.
hard to master.
Gotta be cutting your friends, man.
Always cut your friends.
Yeah.
Just do it carefully and in the proper way.
Even if they don't ask.
Dexterity. What is your pick for most innovative?
Well, originally I wrote down Super Mario Odyssey, but somehow my option changed to Super Mario 3 for the NES release on the Classic. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds pretty innovative to me.
The NES Classic was like last year.
Well, I mean, technically we're recording this in 2018.
So
Yeah.
This was a decision I didn't make. My pick was Super Mario Odyssey. So.
Just go with Super Mario Odyssey. Imagine
I'd like
Bryce
to hear
isn't a troll.
what you think is why you think that's innovative, right? Because to me, it felt like Super Mario 64 with one new mechanic, which not bad.
The mechanic changes the entire game. I mean, that's
Does
the thing.
it,
Like
though?
almost every zone has a new way to play. Multiple, like you
Oh, no,
capture
I
a thing
felt
and
like I
it's
was
an
just, like-
entirely new way to play.
I feel like it was just like possessing something. You know, I was playing as this one thing.
Exactly.
I felt like I didn't feel like I was like uniquely one thing until I got to the Picky Peck, the little part of the bird at the end. The bird, fantastic. But like most of the other things, like possessing a Goomba, okay, I'm just hopping as a Goomba. It has slightly different hopping mechanics, right? Like they had slight variations of jumping.
Goombas.
I mean, you can tear
they
apart
can
my
fall in
pick.
love with the other Goombas.
You can tear apart
It's
my
very
pick all you
important.
want. I didn't actually play the game.
I'm not trying to tear it apart. I want to know.
Just-
I just want to know why you picked it for most innovative.
Okay, well, let's hear Darian tell us.
No.
Okay.
All right, I will take up the defense. I legitimately do think the capture mechanic really changes the game. Like, I think the capture mechanic is really good. Like the little bird, you know, like you were saying, is pretty cool, and he plays a lot different than regular Mario. Like, I'm in one of the zones right now that's like the little like food zone. I can't remember the thing that's all about the snacks. Yeah, and there you capture a fireball and you can swim around. Like you have access to an area that you didn't previously.
Unlocks movement for Mario in hot things. Like
yes, it does.
That's-
Which you didn't have that movement previously.
It, every Mario game
but
is
it's
just
not-
Mario moving around an environment, right?
Yeah, I mean
exactly.
Come on.
But I mean, it's not. I didn't feel like it was a huge innovation. I'm very happy to
I
have
don't think it's a
great
huge
Mario
innovation.
game, and I think it's a great Mario game on a finally high definition platform. As somebody who did not like the Mario Galaxy games,
Really?
this was like
That's
my
the first
one of
person
my
I've ever heard say that.
favorite.
So. I think Buddy might
Mario
be the
games.
first person
like,
I've
it's
heard
up there
not.
with Sunshine for me.
Yeah, I was just taking up the defense. I don't think it's like hugely innovative, but I think it definitely helps. You know, it pushes it forward and makes it.
I think it was
more
innovative
unique
on
than
the
previous
Mario,
interesting
the
game.
3D Mario
Yeah.
formula. I don't know
Okay.
necessarily games as a whole.
I felt like it was more iterative than innovative.
Yeah, it was definitely iterating on the previous Mario games.
I mean, in terms of platformers, it completely changed the game. I think, like, what you expect of a platformer, this is a lot different. I mean, the capture mechanic,
Most of the time, I expect them not to be fun. So
yeah, I did that. What
I'm not a big fan of
Mario was
3D
fun
or
through
2D
and
platforms.
through. That whole game,
platformers
like,
myself.
by the time I got to the end, I was like, wow, this is actually one of the best games I played this year.
Oh, and
Yeah,
Mario
it was a
Odyssey
lot of
haven't
fun.
beaten that. Add it to the score. I think we're up to 6.
Yeah. After the game ended, and then it's like, go collect more moons. I was
Yeah,
like,
there's a whole
I'm not
end
having
game to
fun.
it.
Definitely not having fun doing
Well,
that. I
doesn't
tried
it get
to do
way
the tower
harder?
of,
Isn't that what it is?
Well, there's like this tower you have to beat with 3 hearts, and you can't heal. Like, there's no hearts in between. You have to fight all like 10 of the stupid bunny things that were just annoying the first time anyway.
Well, that's what I heard was super
That's
good
what
about
made
it.
me
is
Super
put it
that
down.
Killer
has-
Bunnies.
That's why I was like,
Haha.
I'm not playing this. Yeah, on my
well,
stream, I got a
that's-
lot of people being like, "Hey, it's you."
You must really love this game.
But that's what I heard that was really good about Mario Odyssey is the fact that like the kind of easier portion of the game is the main story, and then if you want the hard sort of Mario, that's when it ends. And if you don't want it, it's fine. You just put it down. You know.
I haven't tapped into any of the end game stuff yet, and that's all I've heard is like it gets challenging after.
I
like,
hear there's,
I've
like-
unlocked
I'm
the
not
area,
gonna
but I haven't gone to it.
To me in a fun way, right?
Well-
As somebody who likes like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and like all of those Souls-like games, right? Those are challenging in a fun and
Well,
progressive way to me. And
you also
Mario
don't like
was like
platformers.
here. Yeah, I don't
And
love
platformers are usually pretty hard. You know what I mean? Like if you play an old school
so
Mario game, then
My
it's more
favorite platformer,
difficult.
like of all time, was Super Meat Boy. And that's the only platformer that I could say like I love this game. I love
You
Super
should
Meat Boy.
Never
Try
mind, I take it all
what
back,
is it?
I
The
guess.
end is nigh.
You should try I Am the
his new game?
Boshi or whatever
Yeah,
that's called.
I've thought
What's
about
that
it.
called?
I actually I think I have it because it's in the humble vault thing.
Oh no, it's called I Wanna Be the Boshi, right? Isn't that what
Bryce,
that's
what
called?
was your choice for most innovative.
Okay, so my
Yeah, it's not Mario. We just took a while to talk about Mario.
Mario's not the winner. I get it. All right. Bad choice. Sorry.
I thought it was
I
a good.
I just
abstained.
wanted
That's a
to
good
talk
pick.
about Mario for a bit.
I think it's a great game. I want to talk about innovation.
So my pick, I don't know. I mean, I know Darian has played it because I got it for her. Just
How Darian plays most of her games.
or just
That
like
aren't League of Legends and PUBG.
I'm just like, hey, I want to play or I want to talk to someone about this really cool game I played, so I'm gonna give it to Darian, and then I do, and then she plays it. So Stories Untold is 4 stories with completely different gameplay within one game. And it's described as a text-based adventure based on the like genre, but the way they like play with that aspect, it's fourth wall breaking all throughout. Because you start the game story 1, you are playing a text-based adventure within the game. Like your screen shows a computer desk within the game, and it's like 80s or something. And there's a desk on the screen, and you're looking at that to see the text. And then you are typing stuff like go to West Room, go to Living Room, go to, like text-based stuff. But as you do that, it turns out you are in the house that you are playing through in the adventure, because you turn on the power at one point, and the power turns on, like the lights flash in your actual room, and then suddenly
That's cool.
as you go through the house, because you're in the house, you're in your bedroom, and you're playing through, and you go up the stairs to your bedroom, and you can hear someone coming up the steps, and the level of dread I had, like I was so tense, I didn't want to move, because I knew I was controlling something I could not see, and when it got to the room that I was in, I was so scared. And story 2 is interesting. There's parts of it, like the design needs a little help, that I actually had to get a walkthrough to solve some of the puzzles. But the way everything wraps up in story 4, the reveal of everything you've done is connected. And I think there's one aspect, which I don't know how much you guys have played text-based adventures, but when you do text, then you'll do something like grab hammer, but the game doesn't know what that means. It'll put, I don't understand. And that's something you will see in Stories Untold, because you'll probably try and type things that the game doesn't understand, so it says, I don't understand, and you'll have to type something else. They play with that aspect in the 4th story in the coolest way ever. And I don't want to spoil it, but just when that reveal happened, I was like, oh my god, I did not think that this could ever happen. And it's so cool. So the way they handled the gameplay, story-wise, like the way, yeah, just everything about it just blew me away in terms of innovation. They did stuff that I did not even think was possible in terms of gameplay. So, very cool.
What platforms is it on?
PC. Because it's
Only?
a text-based
Okay.
adventure, so you need
That makes sense.
keyboard.
Yeah.
Shout
now
out
that
to
you
Black
say
Ops 1 when you could get
Zork.
out of your chair and
yeah.
go back to the computer and play Zork. That's about my experience with text-based adventure games.
When you said it was a text-based adventure, I was kind of like, all right, yeah, and you linked it, and I was like, but you just sold me on
pretty
it
cool that
with
it's connected.
some of the description. I'm
It's
interested.
really cool.
So this category, none of us have the same game. None of us even have like the same genre. So
Well, wait, don't me and Oh, on this one? Okay, yeah, never mind.
Most innovative.
I'm an idiot.
Teddy,
so,
Teddy,
like,
thanks
how
for
are we
backing
gonna...
our direction.
I thought we were moving on. I thought we
Clearly.
had chosen for some weird reason.
Obvious choice.
Yeah, like, okay, let's see here.
So, goes to Super Mario Odyssey.
Nope. I withdraw.
Okay, let's do process of elimination on this one. Let's do that.
Anybody-
I like Hellblade. I vote Hellblade.
Super Mario Odyssey.
Hellblade,
Yeah.
great game.
I mean, you don't have to.
I'm gonna
cross
throw
it
What
out.
Remains of Edith Finch back in there.
Wait, for...
Is it really innovative? It's a
Yeah,
walking
it's a walking
simulator
sim.
It's
For walking
with
sims,
some puzzle. I don't know.
the way they present the story is innovative, but...
None of the
This is
mechanics
one
are
of the
different
ones
or
that we're
anything.
gonna mostly go off of what we hear. Because, like,
Yeah.
none of
Yeah.
us have played all of these, you know what I mean?
I've played
So
Snipper Clips,
it's gonna
I
be-
don't
I've
think...
only played one
I've
of
played
these.
Snipper
Snipper
Clips.
Clips,
I
Mario, and
appreciate
Doki
the pick.
Doki.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't pick it over other games.
All right,
So
we're
Snipper
going.
Clips
We're
is
crossing
out.
that off.
Wow, my name too feels bad.
He crossed you off. You have to
Just
be quiet.
eliminated.
Oh damn!
I've not played Doki Doki Literature Club. I don't even know what happens
Wow,
because...
am I seriously the only person? Really? That like blew up.
I think so. Yeah, it did,
Wow.
and I'm scared of it.
Yeah, no, that
what,
blew
what
up. Like,
sets it
everyone was
apart,
playing
it.
I
I
The
guess,
watched
only
from a
reason I
visual
won't
novel?
play it is because I don't play PC games when I'm not streaming,
League.
and you specifically said don't play it when you're streaming.
Yeah,
so I'm
don't
like, well,
play when you start.
fuck that game then. Like,
It actually has a thing that detects if you're streaming. Like you can
Yeah, it does.
use
There-
Twitch
there-
integration, and it changes
sounds
the
for
game
weird.
a little bit.
for
Yeah.
one certain part. Yeah, there's a what sets it apart is just like what it does at the end that I can't spoil.
You can't say,
it gets
but, like-
super into like this. Yeah,
Is it?
I can't
is
say,
it what breaks
so I
it
can't
from
petition
being a
for it.
visual novel, or is
You
it
know?
like it's just a visual novel with
It's a
certain
visual novel, but it
aspects?
does some really crazy stuff when it comes to the storytelling. Like
Okay, so
how
it's almost
it
like
interacts
with stories
with the
untold, where
game.
it's what Bryce is saying.
It's like reading a book, except there's also pictures.
so like a picture book.
It's like a choose your own comic book adventure.
Get out of here, bunny.
It's like a graphic novel if
Okay,
you
so
skip
not that
panels.
one.
Exactly.
I'm surprised none of y'all had played it though. That's surprising.
Hellblade or
Oh, what I was
Stories
gonna
Untold?
say real fast though, Darian. I know you don't play stuff off stream, but if you're a fast reader, you can do it in like an hour.
I'm not.
You're not? Oh, rip.
I get caught up on words pretty easily.
Okay.
I'm willing to give it to
so-
Hellblade.
Yeah,
for
I'll give it
mostly
to
for the
Hellblade.
reasons
Yeah.
I love
the-
how
the
Hellblade
way
has now
Bunny
won
presented
2
it
of
was
our
good with,
awards,
you know.
and 2 of us have played it.
framing it in a
It's
theory.
fantastic.
I
I think
wanna play it.
everybody should play it.
It just needs to go back on sale. I have it on my wish list.
It's fantastic.
Is that one on Humble Bundle store?
Hellblade, I think, is on Humble Store. I'm checking now.
Yeah. Yeah, that would get cheaper.
I have to buy it through
Plus,
Steam though because I have some free money on Steam from selling a bunch of shit in games. So
Yeah, Hellblade is on the
the point is I
Humble
don't
Store.
want to spend money.
just to do a little selling out, Last Geek is a Humble Bundle partner. So
Stop.
if you decide to buy some games, please put me like at the end of the URL, put partner equals Last
URL?
Geek.
At the end of the
Girl.
URL.
And if you didn't know, you can link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account to get a free sub to your favorite streamer every 30 days.
Which could
Use
be
it for
anybody
dexterity.
in
Use it
this
for Last
room.
Geek Plays.
Yeah, use
He doesn't even stream. Fuck that
Maybe
guy.
one of us.
Get 5 Amazon
Use it
Prime
on one of
accounts.
us, and then just sub
Just
to everybody
cycle
else.
through.
If
Anyway.
you like
Yes.
Overwatch,
Just
though,
cycle
you
through.
know.
Oh my god, this
Except
is
for Bryce.
Like Metal Gear Solid 2.
welcome to the best show of 2017.
We're
All of
leaving
us.
it in 2017. That's the problem.
Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice is most innovative game as determined by Ready Set Gamecast. Now,
The only one that matters.
the big one. The big game of 2017. Game of the year.
The Gautier Award.
How are we going to do this?
We're gonna all meet out back, and whoever
gonna
wins
fight.
the fist fight.
This is kind of half and half in a way. Like,
Darian doesn't count, is what Teddy just said. Fuck you, Teddy.
No.
it's you have 1, two other people have one, and then two other people have one. So it's kind of, you know what I mean?
Darian, what is your pick for Game of the Year of 2017?
PUBG.
Okay.
It's PUBG.
Why?
It's a good game.
It's a good game.
It's a good game. The way it blew up, the amount of support that it had, it felt like it came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden everybody had it. I feel like, especially with it now it being on Xbox and stuff, it's getting to more and more people. Like, I have a friend at work who didn't know what it was, got it, and now can't stop talking about it. He loves it so much. And I did that, and my boyfriend did that, and a bunch of friends that I play with did that. And like, I just feel like it was such an experience for everybody in a genre that wasn't explored very often. The whole Battle Royale gameplay wasn't explored too much before it. Like, there was a couple games that I can think of off the top of my head, but this one really nailed it on the head with graphics.
They were mostly
and
mods too.
I can think of like 5.
well,
actually.
H1Z1 King of the Kill wasn't a mod, was it?
H1Z1
No,
wasn't.
H1Z1 was not a mod, but
It was a game that came out called
Player
The
Unknown
Culling.
was brought in to
Yeah, he
consult
consulted
and do work
basically
for that.
designed it.
He created
Right.
the Arma 3 mod, Player Unknown's Battle Royale.
That still doesn't
Um,
mean that those things
and then-
didn't exist. You know what I mean? Just because it's
No,
the same creator.
I'm not
like
saying
they,
that they
were
didn't
there.
exist. I'm not
No,
saying
yeah,
they didn't
he's
exist.
Saying
I'm
they-
listing the
I
things
just-
that did exist.
I'm also not.
Yeah,
I'm
I
saying
just-
We're
that
also
this
not
one
talking about
just
the
took
most
all of
innovative
the
category.
best parts.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah,
the
I don't know. People
of
always
the
forget that those
genre.
things exist,
Threw it
and
all
then when I
together.
bring them up, they're like, "But he worked on them."
Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's like that was
he
his
literally
stepping stones
created
to
Battle Royale.
perfecting his game. That is
Exactly.
his passion
I think the
project.
Japanese
literally
movie.
created Battle
Might have-
Royale. Oh my god. He created Player Unknown's Battle Royale, Arma 3 mod. He consulted a whole bunch on
What is now
H1Z1
King of the Kill?
King of the Kill, or what is just called H1Z1, I think.
It's now
And
just H1Z1.
They dropped
Oh,
the
okay.
H1Z1
Did they get rid
title
of the
from
whole-
Just Survive. So yeah, H1Z1 was heavily influenced by him, and Player Unknown's Battlegrounds obviously was when he finally got a call from, or I think he literally got an email from Bluepoint and was like, "Hey, you want to direct a game?"
Isn't it Blue
And
Note?
yeah, and there were
Blue
another,
Hole,
a
Blue
number
Hole.
of
Sorry, not
other.
Bluepoint, Blue Hole.
There've been a number of other either mods or early access titles that have kind of come and gone in a BR
Right.
format of some sort, like
Yeah,
the Culling,
and like
to name one
Fortnite
that I
came
can think of
along
off the
with
top
it
of my head.
afterwards.
Yeah.
With Battle Royale, we've got Paladins
Shout
is making a
out.
Battle Royale mode.
Which I'm actually
Uh,
very interested in because that like
How do you
has
balance
to
that?
be different because it's
But yeah, there's-
class based.
There's
You know
other
what I mean?
games,
Like, that's
but this
weird.
is the first one that has the
mass market
staying
appeal.
power. Yeah, that for whatever reason hits like all audiences except
Yeah.
for Teddy.
I think
So.
I
It's
think
true.
with PUBG, it's a legitimate contender, and if it was polished like every other game
Yeah,
you
if
would
it was
think
more
of that
polished,
would fit into
definitely.
a Game of the Year thing, it would have been Game of the Year.
Have you played 1.0?
Have you played since 1.0 came out? If you haven't played since 1.0 came
I've
came
never
out,
played it.
1.0 is a massive level. Like, it went from, and I think we were just saying, like, because we saw it all in early access, and they were like, yeah, we
Yeah.
don't polish until the end.
I-
When they released 1.0, it was like, this is completely different in terms of the scale of polish. And I think a big part of the game's appeal comes from the unexpected, weird things that can happen. Sometimes the bugs with physics and stuff like that. Not the, like, this is literally not finished in
And
this building, so
unplayable
there's
to
no
this, yeah.
stairs and unplayable. Yeah, it's like, oh look, these two cars hit at such a high speed that they meshed together, vibrated, and then exploded and killed 8 people. like when that happens, or like when like Teddy's car crashes or game crashes, so Squeegee smashes into him and blows up, and like 10 seconds later somebody else like disconnects or game crashes or something ridiculous happens because of all the physics that just happened. That is part of the appeal of that game. The kind of rough edges is kind of part of the appeal of that. So
I played with a few friends, and we all got cars, and we're just kind of like messing around with them. And one person crashed into, I think, me, and like the cars exploded, and the surviving person went and found them, and they had landed on top of buildings far, far away. And like the entire rest of our game was just like solving the mystery about what happened to these cars. So cool. But yeah, 1.0, the like UI
emergent.
stuff. Yeah, the UI stuff that they did in 1.0.
In 1.0 is fantastic.
Is so good.
I really wish they followed almost more of the way Overwatch released, where it was a closed alpha and then like closed but kind of super open beta period that lasted basically a full year. And so
yeah,
like
they just didn't have Blizzard money behind them.
They didn't have Blizzard money. They had Bluehole money. And like if they could have
is a bummer.
been a sort of open closed type of beta for this past year and then launched in this current year 2018, I think that game, you would see it and be like, okay, that's probably game of the year this year, you know.
But
I disagree. All the hype was in the middle of 2017. So I feel like if it was released,
up, though, in a different release schedule,
I guess. But I don't think that it would have ramped up the same way without the active gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't think the money.
It wouldn't
and you're
have
right,
the
it
money
did
to
peak
get to the point that it's at
so
now. It's definitely I think the way that it came about, I don't think PUBG could have come about and been the game that it is now if it hadn't done early access. And had a very large community giving some not constructive, but a lot of constructive feedback.
That's true.
A lot
it would
of
probably be
the
similar
game
to
is influenced by the people who play. And if you see, shout out to NoClip, who just released the Who Is Player Unknown NoClip profiles. Very, very good interview with Player Unknown about where he came from and about the game. Surprisingly, no. People don't recognize it.
Man.
People walk up to people who are like in full like PUBG decked out costumes at cons and be like, dude, that's an awesome costume. Can I take your picture? And he snaps a picture. They'd have no idea who he is, and he tweets it out later. What?
That's funny.
What?
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a very unassuming looking man in like his early 40s.
Yeah. If cultural impact is a factor in this at all, then PUBG has a lot of points in that category because
it does.
I mean, it has made huge waves in the gaming world. Like, I think every aspect of gaming has been affected by PUBG in some way. Streamers, other games, like so many games have added a battle royale.
The AAAs we're gonna see over the next 2 or 3 years, just because of that.
So exciting.
And like we've said, this is not most innovative. This is game of the year. So battle royales have been seen before, but I think PUBG perfected the formula. They stripped out all of the bad things that H1 and all of those games have had and just streamlined it to the perfect formula.
I see you, Teddy. I totally agree.
I disagree,
like Fortnite,
but that's okay.
But I haven't played PUBG, so I don't know if that I can say I don't like it better.
I like Fortnite, but it's just preference. Don't kill me.
Okay.
I don't
like Fortnite because it's
projectile
available
guns.
to me.
Because I'm bad.
We have talked about Darian's, like everyone's pro Darian on this one. So let's hear what Teddy. Let's hear what
3v2. So
I'm sorry. That's why that whole time I was just like, yeah, I got nothing to say here. I'm just gonna chill and let them talk about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Teddy, why don't you talk for a minute and tell me about your pick for Game of the Year?
Horizon Zero Dawn would be my pick, because when it comes to Game of the Year, I think you should pick, like, personally, the way I think about it is I think you should pick a game that, like, is the best that year in, like, every sort of facet of a video game, right? Like the mechanics, the story, soundtrack, sound design, like every sort of little breaking it down. If it does awesome in all of those categories, right, then I think it deserves Game of the Year. So, for example, Zelda, which we'll talk about in a bit, Zelda Breath of the Wild. I don't think Zelda Breath of the Wild, as somebody who hasn't beaten it, obviously, but I also haven't beaten Horizon, I don't think Zelda check marks the story aspect. Like I know that there is a story.
They
there,
just drew a line through that and wrote NA next to it.
I know that
And
there
then somebody
like
came
is
along
a
and was like,
story.
hey, how about we do something?
Yeah, like you do stuff, but it's very like from the bit that I've played with the story is very just Zelda story like, right? They're like, you got to do this, you got to save the world, you know,
have to go.
you got to go back to the
I
princess.
thought we were
blah,
talking
blah.
about Horizon.
Yeah, let's.
I know, that's
Teddy,
my
why don't you
point.
talk about
It's
Horizon?
Horizon.
Are you given a story where you have to save the world?
Let's
Not
talk about
really.
Horizon.
Well, yeah, he
Well,
has no point
my
talking
point
about
is that-
Horizon yet.
That's my point, guys.
Okay.
Is I'm pointing out what Zelda doesn't have, and what Horizon
it doesn't-
does have is a story.
So what does Horizon have?
Horizon
Yeah.
isn't
A
Zelda.
story. It has a
therefore.
Tell me about Horizon, please. Just Horizon.
My point was that Horizon has the gameplay, all of the aspects. Zelda also has that, but what Horizon does have that Zelda doesn't have is the story. That is what I was getting at. I don't know what's wrong with you people. Anyways, the story is very, very good in Horizon. Like, it's very personal, like Bunny was saying earlier when we were talking about the narrative. The story is super personal, but it also connects to, like, the overarching how the world ended up like it is. I've actually read almost all, if not all of the, like, little logs you can pick up that, like, oh, this is a little thing in your codex. I never read those. And I've read almost all of them. And I'm like, this is really interesting. One of them just gave this whole story of, like, how the king came to be the king in this one area. Is just like, oh, here's the succession of like how this battle happened and all this, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. The world building in that game is really, really good. Not to mention all the other aspects, such as like the combat. I think the combat in Horizon is really, really good, and maybe the best combat. Pretty sure the best combat of any game that I've played this year. Like the actual, when it comes to, you can assess them, robot dinosaur, you can assess them and like see their weaknesses and use exactly the type of weapon from your arsenal that you can, that you need to take it out. You can like knock off parts of their things. Some monsters, you can actually, I don't know why I'm calling them monsters, but some of them you can actually knock off parts that you can then use as a weapon and then go back and kill them, which is super awesome. The combat's just very, very good, and it's super satisfying.
It's really
when you take down
satisfying
a giant,
game.
like when you take down a Thunderjaw for the first time, it's incredible. It's a great feeling. It's really cool. But yeah, like the voice acting was really good. All the actors are awesome. All the main actors, like some, it's a giant open world. Some of the like NPCs are like, what are you doing? I don't know about this. The music is really good. The music's kind of similar to Zelda in the fact that it's kind of sparing. It's not super often, but when the music does kick in, it's really good. What else? That's you know what? That's what I got for now. I'm gonna
that's
pass
my
it
pick,
off to.
too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna pass it off to Bunny here.
Okay, Bunny,
See if
can
he's
you
got
tell
other
me
stuff to
about
say it.
Horizon without saying the word Zelda at any point?
Why? I don't get what's the problem with that.
Because that's for the last section when we're actually talking about pluses and minuses. Just
Sure,
talk
but
about what's good.
to mention the positives and why it's good.
You spent yours comparing. No. Okay, go
It's
ahead.
an open world game that has an interesting open world with a really clever backstory that, I mean, it's about kind of finding out from the world side of things, about finding out where the or how the world came to be this way, right? You're on the moon, so obviously
on the moon. Yep.
no. So it's got this really interesting open world. So great, that's fun to explore. It's fun to go, check off these things in this open world to unlock the map to get more lore about the world and where it came from. Awesome. So that's great. So let's take the most interesting character of the year and put her in that world. You get Aloy, who's this outcast character. We see her as a child growing up, becoming a woman, and then discovering there is way more to the world than she thought there was, and how there's a lot of mystery around her her world and universe there, or around her existence rather. So we take that, we get this really interesting like hunting kind of feel to the combat. You can stalk the dinosaurs and stuff, and you
Yeah,
get
the
some
stealth
really,
is also pretty great too.
the stealth is definitely very well implemented. And then you get into this really personal story for her discovering herself that then intertwines into this really, really big, like dramatic world changing moment, or sequence of moments that is, it hits every moment in the story lands, and is very good in its emotional and world building impact. Everything informs everything else in the game, in important and visible ways on both small and large scale. And I think that's why it's Game of the Year 2017.
Matt, can you tell me about the best game of 2017?
Sure, it's this little game called Zelda Breath of the Wild.
A little indie game.
A little
company
indie
you've never
game.
heard of.
Little small
You've never heard
studio
of?
known as Nintendo, yeah.
I think Zelda. So I haven't played Horizon, so I can't really speak to it or against it. To be fair,
Good.
You know, so I don't know much about it, but I think Zelda hits a lot of the same points that both Teddy and Bunny just named. I think Zelda has a very strong story, and it's there if you want it, and it's not required. If you care, you can go find all the memories and learn how basically you ended up where you are at the start of the game, what the struggle was for Zelda, which was an interesting choice for her. She was, if you want to go the female character route where she's like, you know, struggling to be empowered, that was literally her storyline. And then you get locked away in a chamber for 100 years while she was struggling to find that, and then ultimately she's holding back the darkness, waiting for you to wake up and do your thing. The world itself was a complete, then you get play of the game. The world itself was a complete physics and chemistry sandbox in some ways. So obviously everything is, you know, designed and calculated in some way, but everything plays off of each other. So if you have a fire-based slime enemy, it's burning the grass. What that does is creates an updraft in the wind, which you can then jump on with your glider and fly high up into the air and go somewhere else if you want. If you kill a neutral slime, you can put it next to a fireplace and turn it into a fire slime. If you shock it, it becomes an electric slime, and you can use those then as weapons against your enemies and have little fire and electricity bombs. There's all these little intricacies of the mechanics working together that create this physics and chemistry sandbox. And it creates a cohesive world that's fairly unmatched. I would say I don't know that I've played anything that gave me the same feeling of freedom that Zelda Breath of the Wild did.
I will say, one of the biggest compliments that I heard about the game when it first came out were people talking about how the fact that, like, in a lot of video games, you know, if you play video games for long enough, you have video game logic in your head of, like, how something would work. Like, oh, I can't walk there. Like, there's obviously, like, events or something like that. That's got to be a boundary. But in Zelda, it's, if you think that maybe you can do that, usually you can. If you're like, can I burn that down to get in there? You hold your arrow over a fire, and then it catches on fire, and then you can shoot the arrow, and then that catches. Like, a lot of that stuff that you normally think wouldn't be able to do.
Can I try this and it works out? That's like,
and then it works. Yeah.
In the, you know, mountainous cold biome, I was ill-equipped. I didn't have like the right, you know, clothing to stay warm. So I used a fire sword and kept it hilted on my back, and that provided warmth for me to exist in the world. And it's just like those little details that really
that kind of
push
stuff
it
is
over
cool.
the top.
My pick is also Zelda Breath of the Wild, and if we want to talk about emergent gameplay, that game has
PUBG's
it.
got you taken.
No.
I mean, it really does. PUBG is 100% emergent gameplay.
No. It's, I mean, you have, 5 powers? Magnet, frick, I'm trying to remember what all the powers
Stasis,
Yeah, the bombs.
magnesis, the ice block. I don't remember what that one's called.
It's called ice.
Bombs.
Something
Yeah.
freeze, maybe. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the way, and then you also have the world effects, like when there is a lightning storm, if you have a metal weapon, if you have anything metal equipped, you will be shocked if you are outside. And gravity and all of these things. I mean, using stasis to hit something, and people were basically traveling across the world by stasising wood and then whacking it so many times, and then they just fly places.
Yeah, the strat for the speedrun is you stasis a boulder, you hop on the boulder, and then you put the bomb behind it to put its trajectory in the right direction, and then you ride the boulder across the map.
But so many battles, both by me and by other players, were solved not by just fighting the creatures head on. Like the giants, you were not fighting those creatures head on. You would do something like trick them into standing near your sword while it was about to be electrocuted, or pushing a boulder onto them. All of these like weird things that, like, the logic made sense in the real world, that like, hey, if I do this, will this work? And it does, because that's what should happen in real world. And all of these tools just played together so well. And that's just in the normal world. The way they played it on the shrines, just I solved puzzles myself, and then I would watch other people solve the same shrine and go like, God, I didn't even think that was a way you could do that. That is so
yeah,
cool.
I remember streaming and doing a shrine, and somebody was like, "Oh, I didn't do it that way, but it worked. Okay."
Yeah, because things just, if you think it will work, it will probably work. And the way the shrines test you mentally, the way every battle seems to kind of test you, because you will scope out a situation and look of like, okay, there's fire over there, I can use that. There's rocks over there, I could use those. Just the way that game makes you think, the way you tackle every thing of that game is so cool. And talking about the freedom, once you acquire your powers, it pops up and says, go defeat Ganon. And obviously that's not the way that most people are going to play that. They're going to go get the extra power-ups by defeating the
Divine
bosses.
beasts.
Yeah, the Divine Beasts. And you get a little snippet of story through that. And I really wish there was more, because you find out about the other Guardians, and I want to know more about them, which there's DLC that will cover that a little bit. But you can, and there are players who take out the shrines and then go straight to Ganon, because you can go anywhere. You can do anything. Obviously not anything, but you can do so many things in this world that it's a great game. And I honestly haven't seen a game that lets you experiment as much as that. I will say one thing as a detraction: the game forces you to go through weapons so quick, and that is a thing of like, you do have to experiment because you're losing weapons so quick.
That's agency to
So
experiment ultimately.
That's point one. That for me, that the weapons I get, if you're gonna do consumable weapons like that, don't make me find a new set of weapons every 20 minutes that I'm playing. You know, like, frustration
The more
point number
you
one
play,
for
the
me
less
right
it
there.
happens. So it's like,
Right.
Yeah, when
I
you get-
played the game for
they
like
get more
50 hours. I
durable.
beat the game. Like, I beat all the Divine Beasts, saw all the memories, and beat Ganon, whatever. I won't go back. I won't buy. I do not think there's anything that in the season pass or whatever that has convinced me that I want it. And the the weapons degradation was incredibly fast, and I felt even late game like you have the Master Sword, and it just disappears from your inventory when you use it. Like you can only use the Master Sword on Guardian weapon or Guardians to really get its effect. There's like this is the Master Sword, right? This thing banishes evil, and God damn it, if that tree is evil, I want to chop it down with the Master Sword without it shattering into 1,000 pieces.
Evil trees, man.
Only for 10
and then
minutes.
I have to wait like 10. Yeah, you have to wait 10 minutes to use it again. Like, so annoying. So frustrating.
The tree's not
The
evil, it's
other
just
huge-
misunderstood.
The other huge frustration for me is the world exploration and the things that inhibit that. I did not like the lightning storms. They happen constantly, and then I have to go into this fairly clunky menu to figure out how to unequip my weapons that are all metal, try and find out which ones aren't metal so I can equip that, and then lo and behold, the pants you're wearing are metal, so you're still gonna get zapped. Like I died so many times in that game because of the logic that it implemented, that it knocked it down several notches for me. I started out, I was like, the first plateau, I'm like, I really enjoyed that, and then the more I played, the less I liked it.
But yeah, like the weapon degradation, like it made me skip fights because I would lose weapons in fighting these guys, and what they would give me would not be worth it. So I'd just run past them. I would, the actual fighting didn't really feel that great against random guys, and there were random guys
like
everywhere.
Twilight Princess had better combat.
It made me basically so. At first, I was hesitant about durability and weapon degradation, and I was like, oh, I don't know, if I like this.
It forces you to experiment.
But it forces you to experiment.
And I don't want to be forced
I started
to experiment
finding
in a game
any way to not use a weapon, basically. That. And then I figured out, I can just... Every enemy at some point gets disarmed. So then I just beat them till they drop their weapon, and then I pick up their weapon, and I have that now, and I can either keep that one and use one of my weaker ones, or I can beat them with their own arms sometimes, literally. So... I don't know. The more you embrace it, the better it gets. And then there's also, like the Korok seeds are a way to have an upgrade system to allow you to carry more weapons, so that it's less of an issue that you have to switch weapons. And
so how many of those are there? There's like
900 Korok seeds.
Yeah.
I have 300 something. But I have like max weapon inventory, and
then that guy disappeared. I had no idea where he went until I found the Master Sword. I was like, oh, finally, you're here.
Yeah, I got the Korok seeds that were obvious. I didn't go out of my way to find them. It was like, oh, that's probably a Korok seed. I'll go to that.
I had probably spent like 80 hours in the game before I read like a random tweet or something, and it was like, those are all Korok puzzles, and I was like, I've seen that particular thing in the environment and never known that was a Korok this whole time. And so like going back through, it's like, okay. And I don't know if I want to say what it is, because like it's kind of cool when you figure it out. But
is it a poop emoji?
It's just it's more natural.
Yes,
than,
when you find a poop emoji in the Breath of the Wild world, you go, hey, that's a Korok.
No.
Let's go check that guy
I
out.
was seeing those everywhere.
Yeah, no,
those
don't
are
spoil it.
everywhere.
I never played long enough for the weapon degradation to like get really annoying.
You're gonna get there.
Yeah, I'm sure eventually it'll get. But then again, the durability isn't as bad the further you play. So like,
the durability is not as bad. You have more
not...
weapons at your disposal.
Even at the end,
at the
like,
beginning, it's not.
Like, I don't want to use a weapon because it's gonna break. Like, and I don't know when I'm gonna find another one. So I'm just not going to use that weapon.
Teach you that
and then I'm just
initially.
going to click the home button, and then I'm going to go play Mario plus Rabbids or Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon's on the Switch?
Say,
cool.
Zelda is a very close second for me. I'm not as low on
Zelda
it.
is a 7 out of 10 for me, and I have so many. I appreciate its logic, and it has created a bunch of rules, and I understand why people like it. It says, here's the rules to this world, go play around. But the rules of the world ended up being more frustrating to me than empowering me to have fun. I never once, while playing Horizon, felt frustrated or felt like I wasn't having fun. Even in fight sequences I lost, because it was, okay, I didn't attack this thing's weak point first, or I didn't prioritize a more dangerous target than I should have. And I lost that fight, so it reloads and I can go in with new information. But in Zelda, I lost a fight because a friggin' storm came down and I had no non-metal weapons. Like, great. I'm losing this because I
Start using those abilities, unequip
RNG.
everything.
Like, it just, like, but I don't want to unequip everything. I want to be able to play the game in a way that is fun for me, and using the abilities was not fun for me. And
Throw your metal sword, use your magnesis, lightning strike comes, bam, got him.
Got him.
See, and, like, I think the most frustrating example of it all for me, too, was the island that you go out to.
Where they take
The
away your
first
stuff.
DLC has a
where they take
basically
away all of your
equivalent
stuff.
thing.
And I'm like,
See, that sounds
like,
cool. Like when I saw
oh my
stuff
God, it
about
was
the island.
so annoying because it's like there's like 3 things you have to collect, but along the way there's like always a lightning storm, and a bunch of the weapons that you pick up there are metal, and there's one of the giant like highest level goblin, not the small goblins but the big ones.
Yeah, he's like a
Yeah,
giant.
they start with
like,
an H.
that will
Hinox.
No, not the Hinox.
The Moblins.
The Cyclopses. Yeah, the Moblins. That's what I'm thinking of. The Moblins, the bigger, more common enemy.
Bokoblins are the little ones. Moblins
Yeah, I wanted to say Bokoblin, but yeah, the Moblins are there. Like, there's 1 or 2 of those big ones, and I just, like, I had to play the same thing like 8 times not because I wasn't good at the game, but because the game just had random shit happen that killed me. Like, okay, like, if that's fun for some people, great, but that is just not fun for me.
I will point out, just as an aside, I've played for 25 hours. I thought it was around 25, and I've gotten struck by lightning once, and I've been in a lightning storm twice, and the second time I took my gear off.
Emerging gameplay, different for everybody.
There's a few places in the game where it's like I felt like it was every 5 minutes I turn around and there's a lightning storm or a rainstorm. And in a rainstorm you can't climb anything. I'm like, all right, great. Can't do anything
Certain
here.
regions of the map have certain weather patterns more commonly, and then
I've played this game all the way through. I played a lot of the game, and I didn't hate it, but from what everybody else is like talking about, like especially around the time like Zelda's just the greatest game ever, it's game of the year, it's amazing. It just, for me, I found the things that people were saying were so great about it more frustrating than anything. And when I played Horizon, which came out like a week before or a week after, I think
it was
more fun
that week, and then Zelda was that weekend.
It was like 3 days.
Yeah, it was like 3 days.
So I had way more fun playing Horizon than I did playing Zelda. And I think a big part of that is the story, but a big part of that too is that it didn't introduce mechanics based on a logic that led to it being frustrating. Like, in Zelda, the best weapons are metal, right? So the weapons that hit the hardest are metal weapons, right? So when I want to play through as a melee, combat thing, if I run into anything that's electric or a lightning storm, it just destroys me. So
I feel like you're really hung up on these lightning storms.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lightning happening in your
wrong.
game.
I'm using the lightning storms as an example of the logic leading to frustration rather than fun.
Yeah.
I think it forces you to be creative, but
Yeah, The
and I
more
don't
you're
want to be
actually
forced
talking about
into something. Like, Horizon never once forced me into hunting an enemy a certain way. There's worse ways to hunt a Thunderjaw, and there's ways to get murdered by a Thunderjaw very easily. But
yeah,
there
that's a
was
really
never
good point.
anything that, like, I never was walking along and just had to go, okay, well, now I got to go through 3 menus to unequip everything that I had equipped, and then I can continue playing the game until this lightning storm is over, or whatever. Like, there's nothing like that that is logic to a fault.
I mean, you could avoid all of the lightning storms by going straight to Ganon, because it does allow you to beat the.
And then it's a
you could avoid
20
that.
It's
minute
also
game.
a lot harder. It's
Yeah.
not like a really
Yeah.
practical thing you can do.
Just get good.
I don't know.
And also,
I will
it's a 20-minute
say
game too. Like,
It's the survival aspects of it that you don't necessarily seem to like, because it's definitely not
Yeah,
a
I don't
survival
like
game
survival
in the
games.
sense that the game is
Usually.
actively killing
Usually.
you. It's more like the game is actively taking a crutch away from you, right? It's like, oh, I really like metal weapons, or I really like rock climbing, and I can't climb because it's always raining, or whatever, you know? It's
Right.
taking something that you use as a crutch at the time away from you to make you do something else.
Why would climbing be considered a crutch? Like, I
Because
have
that's like
Spider
the
Link.
main exploration tool in the game. You climb mountains you can climb any mountain, you can walk anywhere.
I put all of my points in stamina right away because I was just climbing everywhere, and then
Yeah,
I had max
definitely
stamina.
loaded
So I
stam.
pulled it up. I have like the 3 circles of stamina or whatever that you can get, and then it looks like a quarter circle over that, and I've got a full row of hearts plus 2 extra hearts. I don't know how many that is because they're not 10
That's
anymore. I don't
about
think.
half, a little more than half, because you can get 2 full rows.
Okay. Well, I mean, I played a
So
lot.
you're
I have
definitely stamina focused.
and I'm stamina focused because early on I realized, oh, this game is going to punish me for trying to explore it. And I felt like I also didn't like the shrines after like the first 20. Like, they just felt like they started repeating mechanics or repeating ideas over and over and over and over and over again. So it's
I will say, the more Bunny talks about the stuff he doesn't like, the more I'm like, I kind of want to go back and play this. Like, I don't mind this stuff at all. Like, I kind of like these mechanics. They were pretty fun. They forced me to do stuff which I normally wouldn't do. Which Bunny doesn't like being forced, but I'm okay with it because
it's
it
just
adds
like
a new, fresh way to play for me.
I feel like it's giving me options and giving me this huge open world, but then saying, well, yeah, but a lot of these options aren't really viable.
I mean, I feel
Like-
like at any time you have 20 options to do anything, and in one situation they'll take away one
And then the
option.
game throws something, at
Yeah,
you
I
that
don't know.
now 2 of them are unavailable at the moment.
But
and-
you still have
Like,
And then
a
you
lot
got to
of
think
them.
about how to deal with it.
Like in the rainstorm, you can't climb the rock wall, but there's a waterfall, so you use your ice ability and you make stairs yourself and hop all the way up and that kind of thing.
If the ice ability was easier to control, absolutely. But I found myself, especially like trying to get out to that island, or like some of the, not that island I mentioned, but like a lot of the abilities I was having a hard time. Like, okay, I want this here, and then I'd place it, and it would show up like just far enough away from where I was placing it that it would like knock me off of a mountain, and I'd die. Like, all right, game, like. I'm trying to push you to the limit, and I think I found the game's limit, and I found my limit, which was like 50 some hours of Zelda.
Yeah, it sounds
So-
like you reached your boiling point basically, like with the game.
Yeah, I reached
it
the
was just
point where I
like,
was
all
like, I reached a point where I was like, all right, game, I'm just going to get all, like, I pulled up a guide for where all of the memories are, and so I could see what, if any, story this game had in it. Which turns out, before the game happened, there's a ton of really interesting stuff that happened, but I don't get to see it. They just kind of say, oh, well, yeah, we made these things, and yeah, we didn't think about it, but Ganon he kind of took over and murdered everybody. So we put you to sleep, Like, I would much rather Breath of the Wild have been playing as Zelda, or even as Link, in the story that happened before the game starts, which I found more interesting than anything else in the game. So like once I got all of those, I had beaten all the divine beasts. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go kill Ganon. Killed Ganon, and I haven't played since then. Like, I have no reason to go back to that world, to that game. So.
Okay, so let's talk about our options. PUBG.
Oh God.
What do you?
PUBG is my second vote.
I mean, I'm I've not played that much of PUBG, but playing solo, I love that experience. But in squads, I tend to mess around.
It's so fun. Yeah, well, and that's
People
Solo
get frustrated with me,
is
but solo
such an intense game. Playing in squads is actually probably the most fun I've ever had in a multiplayer game in PUBG.
Oh.
You're
Y'all
just
don't
shook.
have to ask me how I feel.
I think if it
about
wasn't for its
PUBG
lack of polish, PUBG would be basically a shoe-in for a lot of Game of the Year awards around in general.
I mean, it won a
If
lot.
it had a bigger budget, it would have more
Yeah.
polish, but it's also a young studio with early access, and 1.0 is incredible. So
Yeah, like the thing you're voting on, or you're judging the game on, is before it was released. Now it's released.
This was the
and it's
majority
like
of the year, though.
right.
To be fair,
gorgeous.
Right. We're talking about the release. I mean,
The full game
Yeah,
is
talking
yes,
about
but your
gorgeous.
experience
It's
with the
very
game
well
throughout
put.
2017 has been different.
yeah, I suppose. And then, PUBG is a complicated thing, and it's like, should it even be winning any awards? I mean, it was
It
released.
should be.
It came out.
It was released.
Yeah.
1.0
it came out.
It's released. So that
Before
argument is it's a moot point.
Yeah.
That
It's like a
discussion
cow's
was fun
opinion.
before, but then it was like, all right, it's 1.0. came out.
They
They
narrowly
made it
got
under the
it.
gun. Yeah, they got it out.
But it's. I mean, PUBG would be my, and is a very close second for me, and in the long term might be one of my favorite games of all time. There was a point earlier this year that I was saying, I think PUBG is my favorite game of all time. But
I
it's,
think
the
what you're
more
saying
I think
is
back on
yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn, the more I think, man, that Horizon Zero Dawn I think is the better game and is the best game that was released this year.
I think looking forward, like you're saying, PUBG, you'll see its fingerprints all over the place, right? We'll see all the sorts of AAA BRs. We'll see all sorts of influence. I also think Zelda has that for what it did with the
We've
open
already
world
seen
and
some
how
of
the
that
sandbox
influence.
works. Yeah.
Assassin's
And I
Creed
think-
Origins took a lot of what Zelda did
Yeah.
with its map and like navigation systems.
With Horizon, I think it's almost the pinnacle of an older game. If you take,
I would
like,
kind of agree with that.
the more recent Tomb Raiders or something like the Assassin's Creeds up till this point, or your Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, those style games where it's the open world, story-based action adventure game, I think Horizon is kind of the pinnacle of that game. And, doesn't necessarily need to be explored anymore.
Right.
And then
Horizon
you
is
won't
the
necessarily see
exclamation
its
point.
fingerprints beyond that.
Right. I mean, Horizon is definitely the best example we've seen of an open world action adventure role playing game,
Yeah,
whatever
like
you want to
third
call
person.
it. Yeah, it is the best of that we've seen, and I don't think Zelda's even in the. Honestly, I don't think Zelda Breath of the Wild is even in the top 5 Zelda games. I think.
I mean, so Zelda
Chris is
Breath
like,
of
how
the
many
Wild
Zelda
really
games
breaks
are there?
from a Zelda game.
I feel like I'm in the minority of that for sure.
They
but
could remove
I
the title
think-
of Zelda from Zelda, and it would
They-
probably,
Right. They could call it
be
Breath
fine
of the
because
Wild, and it
yeah,
because it wasn't a Zelda game.
right. It
really.
very much broke the mold of a Zelda game.
Which might be
I
a
mean,
good thing.
there's.
It's
Yeah.
very
I mean,
innovative.
It just means that
It
they're
needed
taking Zelda in a completely different direction that I'm sad about.
You're not a
because
fan of. Yeah.
I loved Wind Waker. Wind Waker, I think, is the best Zelda game, followed by Ocarina of Time and
Ocarina.
Majora's Mask. And then I think Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons are the next on that list. Those are the best of the top-down 2D Zelda games. So I don't think that I think Zelda Breath of the Wild is a good game. I don't think it's a great game or an exceptional game or a masterpiece in any way. So
I think we get that Bunny was
Doesn't
not
like
satisfied
Zelda.
with
Nah,
Zelda.
man, yeah, I think we can
We
rest
need to
that point.
stop
Like it.
bringing it back to Zelda
Yeah,
because we
it's
just keep
okay.
letting him
But
shit
the
on
argument
it.
at this,
Yeah.
the argument at this point though is
I'm willing to throw my hat behind PUBG.
I
Me
am
too.
not. Please, for the love of
I am-
guys, don't make me be associated
PUBG,
with
Game of the
this.
Year.
Please.
I've never
Please,
played it,
No.
so I can't say, but I do
I'll
really
swing
like
my vote for
Fortnite,
Zelda,
and they're
for the
very
love of God,
similar.
please.
I was gonna sling my
I'll-
vote for
I'll-
Zelda.
I will.
Wait,
I know Bunny
wait,
doesn't
Bryce
wanna be a
sits
part
by
of it,
Zelda.
and I
wait,
apologize,
Darian's going
but,
Zelda,
like-
Teddy's going Zelda. Wait,
No, I'm
what?
not gonna
lie.
lie. If PUBG's
Mine
gonna
would still be
win.
Horizon. Like my personal, I still like Horizon more because I think it just covers more of those facets of video games. Like the story is incredible, but like the more we were talking about it, the more I'm like, I want to go back to Zelda. Like I actually want to go back and play more, man. The stuff that we were talking about that Bunny had as negatives, I actually really like.
I
So,
feel like I have
don't know,
no
man.
idea what Horizon Zero Dawn is,
it's about.
and
it's like
Yeah, I
Zelda
do.
way
Okay,
better.
So imagine
but
a
my
third
problem is
person.
that I have zero interest in it either. Like I've never really played a
robot
Zelda game.
dinosaurs.
Yeah, that sounds awful to me. Like I hate dinosaurs, and
How do you
nobody's
hate
that-
dinosaurs? What the fuck? You're
I
a
have
human.
a fear of dinosaurs. I
Yeah.
have a fear of dinosaurs.
No, I don't know, man. We were looking forward to that game for forever because they kept showing it off, and it was literally just like these like robots that looked like dinosaurs, and we were like,
That's just
"What is
weird to
this?"
me. Like
It's
I
crazy.
had
It's
zero
in
desire.
a post-apocalyptic world, but
yeah,
it
it's far,
seems
it's a
like
thousand
tribal.
years after the end of the
world ended
modern
and they
world.
went back
Yeah.
to being tribes, but there's still like machines that are still. It's super interesting. It's such an
That just
interesting.
really
sounds
interesting.
so-
And then there are scenes like set in modern day, or like codec things that are set in modern day that link
Yeah,
like our
like-
world to Horizon's world, and you're
Yeah.
like,
That's like the
I
division.
can totally
how did we
see
get
this
here type
happening. Like you can 100% see where they made this. Like, okay, this happens at a certain point in history, and it makes sense that we'd get to a point where like machines kind of roam the world, not necessarily robot dinosaurs, but and in the way that they end up
look
explaining
like
it. But it
robot
is
dinosaurs.
very, very interesting to uncover the layers of the world and the layers of the story and who Aloy is and why she's important to the world.
The premise is really, really good, and the combat is awesome. And like the actual, I was gonna throw this out there as well. The way the game feels mechanically compared to Zelda is like Zelda feels fine, right? It's totally fine, but like the weird where your sprint is not L3 and like your jump and like there's
controls
a
in
lot of
Zelda are
weird
weird
Nintendo
as hell.
sort of there's a lot of weird
I
Nintendo
attribute part
sort
of that
tropes.
to going to the Switch from dealing with a
part of it
DualShock.
is the gamepad sucked, right? But it's still the same controls, and I've been playing it on the Switch as well, and it's still weird. It's better for sure on the Switch than on the Wii U, but it's like still kind of weird. Whereas
weird.
like the Horizon's controls and the way it feels is like perfect. Like Matt was saying earlier with how it's like the pinnacle of those types of games, like Shadow of War type stuff, Assassin's Creed, all that. Like it out of those. Other than Infamous 2, which is my favorite game of all time. I know I'm a weirdo.
It is better than Infamous 2. And Infamous 2 is an amazing game. Horizon Zero Dawn is better.
But I was just talking about how it feels. Like, I really love how the Infamous games feel. Other than those, like, it's the best mechanically for me.
It feels incredible to play, yeah.
Yes, Bryce, you have your hand up.
Other
he the
than Bunny
host?
and Teddy, has anyone played Horizon?
No.
And I have zero interest too.
I
The more
have
they
zero
talk about
interest.
Zelda,
I'm totally fine with this. I'm totally fine with everything that's happening, except for the fact that Darian's not interested. Because
I have
Horizon's really
zero
good.
interest.
It's
The
so
more
good.
you talk
like,
about
we laid
it,
out
the
a
more I'm
really
like,
interesting story, and she's just like,
no.
You can
That's
convince her.
Just
outside this podcast.
It's very upsetting.
I have more desire to go out and buy Zelda after listening to Teddy or to Teddy 2.0.
Teddy.
Yeah.
Listening to Bunny like complain about it. I'm like, I want to see how this feels. Like, I'm very curious to see, because I haven't heard anything negative about Zelda up until now, and I've heard about 45 minutes of negative Zelda input. So I want to go out and buy it and play it right now.
Well, so
Start
Darius is
shitting
going
on
off of
Horizon.
like curiosity because
Yeah, it's a morbid curiosity.
I was interested in Zelda before, and
Yeah.
Matt made a few really good points about like how you have to be creative in the game. Like, I want a game that's going to challenge me like that. That's the kind of thing that I kind of dig. Like, that sounds
taking
cool
down
to
a
me. I was
Thunderjaw is really
interested
hard
in
and challenging,
Zelda.
and you have to use all the weapons in your arsenal, and it's great.
I was interested in Zelda before, and then listening to the positives and the negatives just made me want to go get it more. And just the whole premise of Horizon Zero Dawn is something that is nothing in my spectrum. Like, there's
Do you not like
Nothing
post-apocalyptic
there.
stuff, just in general?
no,
Like
I don't.
Walking
Not
Dead,
usually,
Nothing. Wow.
unless
okay.
it's zombies. I like zombie
Well, I mean,
stuff.
that is literally post-apocalyptic. That's what that's
which
about.
is what that's the only one though. Like, I don't like other stuff, like the idea of like Fallout, I guess. Like, I've played a little bit of Fallout, but it can't keep my interest.
Well, that's
'Cause-
more of the game and not the
That's how I
premise.
feel. Like
I don't know.
every time Fallout or Skyrim or something, I get like 17 hours in, and then it's just like, all right, I don't care anymore about the story. I don't care. I'm just
Same.
I'm
That's how
just
I am with
falling off.
Bethesda games.
Yeah. Well, after like the first 200 hours of Skyrim, I can't feel the same draw I used to. That's for sure.
I can't feel. And does it?
And after 200 hours of Skyrim, I
It was
can't
straight. It was straight 200 hours. So PUBG's game of the year.
Didn't eat, didn't sleep.
I do not think Horizon is getting the vote, so it's either going to be PUBG or Zelda.
For the love of God.
It better
I
not
mean,
be
it
the
Zelda.
right
sounds
thing.
like
Please do the
Bunny
right
doesn't
thing.
want to vote for Zelda. I can't
I
really
will
vote for
not
Zelda.
vote for
Bryce
a
has already
7
said
out of
it's PUBG, so like I think we
up.
know who the winner is
PUBG, I think,
here.
is...
To be fair, Matt also has not played PUBG.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't
not
vote for
alone
PUBG.
in
I
the
haven't
fact
played
that
it.
like not
I'll
a
stand by
huge
that.
fan.
Zelda's the
I
only
mean,
one.
he hasn't played, so he's not.
Zelda's
it's
the
not
only one
decided.
for me.
Darian, Zelda or PUBG?
Same at this point.
PUBG.
Matt, Zelda or PUBG?
Look at Daruk. How could you not love that face?
There you
Okay.
go. That's a Zelda vote.
That's Zelda. Teddy, Zelda, PUBG.
Zelda, please, please.
And Mifa, she loves you.
Bryce,
loves
it
you.
comes down to you.
Bunny, Zelda,
It does
PUBG.
come down to you.
PUBG. PUBG,
It comes down to
absolutely.
you, Bryce. Bryce, please don't do this just to troll on me, okay? I know
see
you
what
love
you
trolling
wrote in
on
the
me,
doc,
right? I will
Bryce.
say that. But you love trolling on me. It's fun to pick on me. I get that, right? But just put that aside for a second and follow your heart. That is all.
And pick PUBG.
Because your heart says
what you wrote.
PUBG.
Remember when you were
In the
talking about
doc.
how much you love Zelda? Remember?
Remember
like
how
15
you
minutes
told that
ago?
Getting
story
creative.
about trying to find where this vehicle flung
And that
this
was
guy's
based on a
body?
bug.
You
Remember
stasis
that? Remember that?
a metal sword, and then you put a bomb next to it and launch it off at an enemy.
Remember the feeling that you got when you glide? Nope. How do you say glide in past tense?
Glided.
Glided, I guess.
Glided?
I was
Yeah.
like glid, glowed.
glid.
Yeah, when you glided.
Time when you
off
glided
the
in
thing,
from the plane
off the tower.
onto Erangel, and you found a level 3 helmet and a Car 98, and you pulled that sick 360 no scope.
did you
Beautiful.
do
That
that?
doesn't
That's
sound like a
pretty
Bryce
impressive.
Okay. Bryce is going to talk now.
Okay, go, Bryce.
I have played PUBG. I have played Zelda. Zelda Breath of the Wild is the first Zelda I have ever beaten. It is one of the few video games that I have beaten. That I have done all of the Divine Beasts, that I have beaten the boss. I felt like I have not gotten all the memories, but I've gotten my fill of that game and I had a good time. There were frustrating parts. I did not like the island. The island was just frustrating for a little payoff. But the ways puzzles were solved, the way fights were solved was very cool. PUBG was the most tense I have felt in a video game. Just waiting for someone that I know someone was there. and just waiting. Is he gonna see me? Am I going to shoot him? And the payoffs. I've never gotten a chicken dinner, but both the level of tenseness, of actual gameplay there, and the level of fucking around that you can do, where you can get in a car and just troll people of just driving through, like trying to run them over and just messing around. And I love watching people play PUBG. I'm going Zelda.
Oh my god!
Oh man, that was close.
Oh, yeah,
that was
I'm
close.
So worried. Oh.
I'm not a part of this. I'm not a part of this.
Erasing all the
halfway on the
bunnies.
ground, halfway in my chair.
Don't worry, PUBG will continue to patch and update, so it'll be eligible again this year.
Okay, I'm back in my chair.
Game of the Year talks,
alright.
destroying friendships.
I am surprised at how that went, but I'm happy with it. I think
I'm
it
kind
worked
of
out
mad
well.
because
I think it was a good
before we
episode.
took Horizon Zero Dawn out of the talk, Bryce was like, fuck it, I'll give PUBG the vote, whatever.
He
and
said
then he
that.
thought about it. And then he thought about it.
Well, I thought more people had
It
played
was like, who
PUBG
do
and
I
were gonna
troll? Better Teddy or worse Teddy?
are gonna swing. But when I actually thought of like, have I actually spent a lot of time in PUBG, or have I spent a lot of time, because you spend more time in the game you like more. I spent more time in
I
Zelda. I played-
disagree.
Not necessarily.
Really?
I have
I spent a lot of time.
I think
I
think
spent a lot
you'll
of time in
easily-
games I hate.
Yeah, you'll
spent
easily
way
spend
too
more
much
lifetime
time in League of Legends
PUBG.
for that to be a true statement.
I spent a lot of time playing The Witcher before I realized how much I did not like it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I've played Overwatch for 2 years straight now, more than I've played any other game. More than I played Zelda this past year, I played Overwatch. It's
Can we give
the
it
nature
to
of the game.
Destiny 1 in Age of Triumph years?
No,
Age
Zelda
of
wins.
Triumph.
Time. Thank you.
I'll give it to Destiny 1 House of Wolves.
I would give it to Destiny 1 The
House
Taken
of
King.
Wolves, you say? Very
I think
interesting
End of House of
choice.
Wolves into Taken King was the pinnacle of Destiny.
House of Wolves pissed me
All
off
that
because
was
it didn't give us a
active
raid.
was- Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Trials was the only thing from there, and
Crota's the
neither of
best
the
raid
raids were
anyway.
really
is the
relevant.
worst. Crota is the best
Interesting.
strike.
Okay,
Crota's the
we're
best
not
raid
talking about
because you
Destiny
can do
1.
it by yourself.
We're not talking about Destiny 1 on the Game of the...
I'm not alone.
Okay.
Get wrecked, Bryce.
As a roundup, best sound design went to Hellblade, which was my pick.
That was painful.
Best narrative went to Edith Finch, which a lot of us picked. Best art direction, Cuphead.
Yeah. Woo.
Most innovative went to Hellblade again.
Sure.
And-
Yeah.
And
There's a Korok under that poop emoji, okay?
For those of you who are listening and also watching, under the Game of the Year, somebody wrote poop emoji instead of Zelda, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
was Game of the Year. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this,
By
for
one vote.
listening. This was fun, and
Yeah,
also
it was
a
good.
huge fight. And you knew it was gonna be. That's how Game of the
We
Year
weren't
goes.
really fighting until Game of the Year, and then we were like, "Oh,
Yeah, we're fairly unanimous up until that
And
point.
everybody
Yeah, we were all kind of like, "Yeah, sure."
just likes weird shit.
I feel like it went from an 1.5-hour podcast to a 2.5-hour podcast because we spent an hour
We also
arguing
spent
about how
like
bad
30
or good
minutes
Zelda was.
waiting for Teddy to figure out how to record again.
It's true. There was an issue for a second there, but it's okay. We fixed it.
Okay.
We're done,
better.
right?
Thank you for listening. Have a good evening, and hope you enjoyed this podcast.
We're not gonna.
Oh, we're not gonna.
Hold on.
Yeah, I was.
Sorry. This is where can people find you, MattAPlays?
At twitch.tv/MattAPlays, or on Twitter, or on Instagram. And that's pretty much it.
Where can people find you, Teddy 2.0?
SuperKILRbuny. So twitch.tv/SuperKILRbuny, yeah, or Twitter. I don't use other things really. I just live on Twitch and Twitter.
Where can people find you, early access, Teddy Generis?
Oh, that's sad. That's very sad. Twitch.tv/TeddyChinaris and Twitter.com. Twitter.com/TeddyChinaris. We're going to be playing the Call of Duty World War II campaign until we beat it over on Twitch, and still playing a bunch of Fortnite, and hopefully Destiny 2 will get better, please.
I'd pay $40 to access that, Teddy Chinaris.
Until it's free next year.
Where can people find you? Best to look at 2017.
Twitch.tv/dexterity. DEXTERIDEE. Same name on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that fun stuff.
Reddit.
No.
FarmersOnly.com.
FarmersOnly.com.
Plenty
Christian
of fish.
Mingle.
EliteSingles.com. Anyway.
That's about it.
What about you, Bryce? Best podcaster of the year? Almost?
Sure.
Oh.
Sure.
Almost.
I have to say almost because he gave me best podcast of the year and then last podcast. So, sorry.
The runner-up.
Damn.
Twitch.tv/LastGeekPlays. LastGeek on Twitter. LastGeekPlays on Twitch. Not Twitch. Instagram. YouTube. YouTube.com/LastGeek. And lastgeek.com. And finally, if you enjoyed this horrible train wreck of a podcast,
Wow.
please go to ReadySetGamecast.com. It has links to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and it would really help us out if you could go on iTunes and Stitcher and rate and review us. It helps us grow and become more powerful.
Do we
Okay.
all flex?
They do, and I never do. I probably should.
This is why he doesn't, because even
That's
future
true.
Teddy.
It's true. Because that's my future.
Okay. That finally brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening, and
We'll be back next week with a regular episode.
Yeah, I don't know when this will get released.
Wow.
I'll release it
Okay,
when
never mind then. We'll be back at a certain point with
Release
regular
it
episodes.
at the end of this year. We'll see how well it
end of
is.
2018.
Okay. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
How long do I wave?